Tate is innocent. And to start us off, Destiny has 10 minutes to the floor. So, Destiny, it is all yours. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, this will take like 45 seconds. I believe in Romanian criminal law, you've got three core elements that you need to prove the crime of sex trafficking. The person needs to do an act, meaning they need to be either involved in like recruiting, transporting, transferring, harboring, or receiving a victim. They need to have the means, so they have to utilize a method such as threat, coercion, fraud, deception, abuse of power, etc. And then the purpose of these two acts and means together needs to be for sexual exploitation, meaning I'm profiting or I'm making money off of you, basically doing sex work. I believe that now I'm always one to say that we should wait until a criminal trial is convened and then we watch how the trial plays out. But based on what Andrew Tate himself has said, and based on the information contained in the criminal indictments against Andrew, Tristan, and the two other ladies, I believe it seems to be pretty clear that unless the Romanian trial or the Romanian court system is literally just making stuff up, and Andrew Tate has just made stuff up in the past, he's probably going to be convicted because I think he's met all of the elements to say that he has been involved in sex trafficking.
Alrighty. With that intro there, we will kick it over to Lalo. And Lalo, thank you for being here. I messaged a few people, and I will be honest, Grace and Ben Thorpe were the ones that got back to me and let me know that Lalo is here to defend this proposition tonight. So we do appreciate you being here. I want to remind everybody that we are a neutral platform here at Modern Day Debate. We're posting topics on science, religion, politics, and we do want to remind you that we're having a live event September 16th in Texas, so check out the link in the description, and if you have a moment to look into our crowdfund as well, if you donate to our crowdfund, you can get all kinds of exclusive perks, so check out the link in the description, and over to Lalo for your up to 10 minutes. Thank you for being here.
Of course. We're not going to need the full 10 minutes, but what we know today is that Andrew Tate has been a pariah for many of reasons, and now they're looking through, to really find the lice in his hair, which is ironic because he's bald. But the point is that the guy clearly is someone who has been under scrutiny, and that scrutiny has been unfairly imposed upon him, but also his associates. Now he has to pay for the sins of the people around him that I will concede are definitely weird people. And so typically, he might be the cleanest person in a dirty swamp. And so that is to say that I would analogize his situation to Donald Trump. Are they both innocent? Yeah, largely, actually, given all the temptation around, they are pretty innocent. Now, I will say, are there some technicalities that you could really nitpick? Yes, of course. But the fact is that the guy is evidently innocent. And moreover, a lot of these sort of procedures that you see in Romania would not fly in New York. They would not fly in a liberal precinct or anything like that in the United States. And again, I clarify, this would not happen in Miami. This would not happen in Baltimore, where it's all liberal, where they would all hate Andrew Tate. We're talking about Romania being extrajudiciously and also very maliciously trying to prosecute a guy, maybe for instance because he owed the government bribe money and he didn't pay them back. Probably something like that. And so largely, I would honestly say that with everything that I've just mentioned before, that if you look at all the evidence, it seems to me as if, yeah, there's a lot of scummy stuff, but nothing that other people wouldn't do. And so instead, you ought to look at what the motivating factor is as to why the guy's getting persecuted. And the fact is that he is revitalizing the masculine energy in the world in a large part. And again, these are like baby's first red pills. I get that, I'm past that. But I could see how a 16-year-old could see this and see his idol, so to speak, which is a very flawed one. I can see that. I could see how somebody could see his prosecution as demotivating. So as someone who is also young, I would say, you know what? I don't want this guy to be thrown in prison along with his brother that nobody cares about, because it also seems to me as if, clearly these people are needed in masculine circles. And so to nitpick their lifestyle when we know damn well that there's some third-rate Eastern European that is doing the exact same sort of pimping or lover boy method than they are, it seems to me as if it's unfairly maligning the Tates to prosecute them over sex trafficking, which is something that white people say, like human trafficking. Meanwhile, they consent to go to Bucharest in the first place. Now we can talk about other details in respect to how they agreed and whether or not there was coercion or they fell in love with a bald guy. I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's their problem. If he's kidnapping a bunch of teenagers, I would understand why there'd be a criticism, but he's getting a lot of like 25-year-old fossils, in my opinion. I'm 20. Anyway, the point is that clearly Andrew Tate is more or less innocent.
All right. Well, thank you, Lalo, for your opening statement. Everybody, we are going to kick it into an open discussion so these fellas can really expound on their back and forth and get to the nitty gritty of what they really believe. But in the meantime, for you, all you have to do is hit that like button and hit that subscribe. And remember to hit into our crowdfund and all of our links in the description, as our guests are going to be linked there in our podcast as well. Let's kick it over to Destiny to respond to some of what he just heard there to get into our open discussion. Thank you for being here, everybody.
Yeah, I don't you can't use the defense the victim was stupid when it comes to defending scams. So I've never understood the defense of like, well, they're 25 or it's okay that he lied. Like the reality is that if you deceive somebody or you lie to somebody, no matter how dumb the lie is, no matter how dumb the person is, for the purposes of transporting them to another country to make money off their sex work, that meets the criminal definition for sex trafficking. If you don't like that, or if you don't want it to be sex trafficking, that's fine. But that's an entirely different argument. You'd be conceding that, well, okay, legally it is sex trafficking, but I think their definition for sex trafficking is dumb, which seems to be what most of the Tate defender arguments are.
Okay. So do I get a rebuttal?
Yeah, well, it's just a back and forth, right? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Okay, first time. Anyway, the point is that in this rodeo, I can really point out to Destiny that when we're talking about Andrew Tate, we're talking about somebody who, if I were to paint the picture for you, is definitely, again, the defense. Again, so I'm going to attack your aspersion for the defense here, saying that, oh, these Andrew Tate people are all coping, that they all cope about the definition of sex trafficking. But honestly, that's not a compelling argument. You know, it's not a charismatic thing. I can see why Destiny didn't go to law school, because it seems to me as if he's not making an emotional plea. He's just doing facts. And the facts are that, yeah, there's some scummy stuff. But realistically speaking, the reason why the Andrew Tate defenders are not taking the nitpicks seriously and not really cowering in fear over their idol getting torn apart over sex trafficking nitpicks is because these sort of technicalities are not really rhetorically effective. Is it, you know, that's clearly what's going on here. It's just that I don't see a passionate reason. If I cared about these women, like I assume Destiny does as a moral person, I would assume that there'd be a more vivacious, sort of passionate defense of these women's integrity. But instead, I just hear a dispassionate, sort of like deassociative, well, actually, you know, yeah, they are stupid, but that's still a scam. It's like, well, I mean, it doesn't seem so. I just don't really sense the energy here, is what I'm talking about.
I mean, the women aren't on trial for being stupid. The Tates are on trial for sex trafficking.
True. And so that's why I think in the court of public opinion, at least I'm not a lawyer, I'll say that up front, somebody is going to be talking about how, yeah, they're guilty in this respect. But in regards to the women's culpability, I think that is a very important thing to note. Not that they're stupid, but that they did consent. And now your my question
Well,
to
to be
Destiny
clear,
would
though,
be,
they didn't consent, though. That's the whole point, is they were misled. They consented to a maritable cohabitation relationship with the Tates, and that was a lie. And they used that to lure them to Romania in order to essentially entrap them into doing sex work. So that's the whole point. That's why it's sex trafficking.
no, but in respect to the cohabitation, I seriously doubt that they promised to marry or settle down with otherwise, like in a common law marriage. I doubt that they actually promised
Between the end
virtually all
of,
these
so
girls.
count one is between the end of 2016 and July 27. Okay.
I can't breathe. Okay, so the point is that with what Destiny was pointing out, clearly, I really seriously doubt, and I think this is just common sense, that they didn't promise every girl that they were going to marry them. So clearly, there was some gray area. And so for him to not really be nuanced, even though I know he spends hours a day like reading the cases, it seems pretty obvious to me that there's some gray area here, that actually he might have fell in love with some chicks and he actually tricked them out. And so clearly there's some reciprocity between the Tates and the women. So the whole argument is whether or not he cohabit or promised cohabitation with all of them, which I don't think Destiny would assume is the case.
Okay, so 4 quick counts. Between the end of 2016 and July 2017, while in Romania, the defendant Tate recruited a victim through the Facebook application, introducing her into believing false intentions of establishing a family/marital relationship and false feelings. That's victim one. Number two, between the end of January 2022 and February 2022, using the Instagram application and following meetings in London, UK, the defendant Tate Emery Andrew recruited another victim by misleading her regarding the intentions to establish a marital/cohabitation relationship and the existence of false feelings. The third count here is February 2021. The defendant Tate Emery Andrew recruited the victim. I'm not reading their names. I don't know if these are public. By misleading her regarding the intention to establish a marital/cohabitation relationship and the existence of false feelings. And then the fourth one is the defendant Tate Emery, Andrew recruited the victim, blah, 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 by misleading her regarding the intention to establish a marital/cohabitation relationship that exists of false feelings. So it seems like the victims that they are accused of trafficking were all done under the pretext of saying, I will marry you.
Okay. So you have 3 or 4 anecdotes, and I like that you actually pulled them up. Now, I do appreciate that, but what I will say here is that clearly, I mean, I've heard this sort of conjecture before that he threw away the passports of the women that were stranded in Romania in his mansion.
Sorry, excuse me. I never
really
brought up throwing away passports. I don't just address.
Okay, I've heard that before. Okay, maybe it was not you. Listen, the point is here is that I really don't think it's that much to ask that if these women were lied to about the pretenses of marriage or whatever, that they could have sussed it out as grown women and to say, can't I leave? Like, if you're already conceding that he didn't immediately throw away the passport, then can you establish a sort of chain of custody about these women's capability of escaping if the guy clearly just lied to them and locked them up somewhere with other women in like some sort of pseudo like Playboy house? Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, you're not responding to anything I'm saying. Do you concede that he lied to them? He misled them about his feelings?
According to those 3 or 4 anecdotes, it seemed to me as if he promised them more commitment, which a lot of guys do, to get laid or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we
or
say
to
that.
use the cam girl side.
Then do you agree that he transported them to Romania thereafter?
Well, I mean, if you were to sleep with them, that would be transporting them to Romania. So I don't know why you point that out as like some poignant thing.
Okay. So he lied to them, and then you said he lied to them like guys do. He transported them to Romania. Do you agree that he profited off of them doing sex work afterwards? That he made money
Only
off
to
their
the
OnlyFans
extent to
accounts?
which they also made a profit. If actually, I remember these early podcasts where he dry snitched on himself 2 years ago, where he said that, oh, I would scam them out of the taxes. But this is not something that people are like. That technically could be I don't know what their IRS is called in Romania, but that could be a technicality to hit him on. Nobody brings that up. It's a more of an emotional appeal about the women and how people hate Andrew Tate. But again, that's something you haven't brought up yet. How he screwed them out of taxes. But how do you screw an employee out of taxes if you're not paying them some bit of the profit of the cam girl industry to begin with? Which would also explain why they stayed in Romania despite being able to leave, because they were profiting off of their own bodies. Which is okay, because sex work is okay, right?
Yeah. So then we agree on everything. So they're trafficking. Whether or not the women profited at all is irrelevant. You agree that they deceived them. You agree that they transported them to Romania, and you agree that he made money off of them doing sex work afterwards. That's all 3 conditions are met in the country of Romania. That's all you need. That's the standard you have to meet for proving sex trafficking. That's it. So
you think, wait. So sex trafficking, okay, but where is the illegality in lying to somebody about marrying them if they come over to a country?
the illegality is if you lie to them for the purposes of bringing them over and making money off of them doing sex work. That's called sex trafficking in the Romanian criminal code.
So even if they make tens of thousands of dollars a year,
even if they make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, yes. Why? Even if they made millions a year. Why? Because you're bringing somebody over through the use of deception in order to profit off of them doing sex work. That's sex trafficking.
Well, my contention with what you're saying is with the transportation thing as well. How does paying for somebody to come over illustrate any sort of point in your argument at all? Like, for instance, if they were already in Romania, is that not sex trafficking at that point? What would it be? Exploitation?
Well, you're talking about the first condition, which is the act, which is one of the three core elements. The fifth part of that act could be receiving the person or harboring the person. That's 4 and 5. So recruiting, transporting, transferring, harboring, or receiving the person. It's all part of the act part of the 3 core elements. So it could just be you're already in Romania and you just house the person and then you lie to them. That's the means part, deceiving them about marrying them. And you do it in order to make money off of them on OnlyFans. Even if they make a ton of money and even if they genuinely love you, as long as you're deceiving them and then harboring them for the purpose of making money off their OnlyFans, that's sex trafficking. I feel like the issue, I think you guys all should just be debating, like, you don't think that the Romanian criminal code is defining sex trafficking well. You don't believe that sex trafficking is a real thing.
Okay. So how would, and as an American, how would this go down in the United States, where I think the law is probably better established and has a better track record than the Romanian law? How would he be prosecuted in your great opinion here? Because it seems to me as if there's a lot of stuff about how he specifically brought them over when they had false impressions or delusions of like sexual relations. So how does that compute in the American legal context?
It would probably be handled the exact same way. The statute makes it a federal offense to knowingly recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, or maintain this has to do with a minor, but knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that the victim is a minor. Oh, this is for minor sex trafficking. I can try to look up the sex trafficking for the United States, but I imagine the law is probably going to be about the same. I think sex trafficking is defined pretty similarly in most countries around the world.
Okay. So the thing is, you know, you brought up a good point actually, that the Andrew Tate people will concede that he actually was guilty, whereas with Andrew Tate he just kind of denies it, which is fair enough because who wouldn't deny it at that point? But I think my larger understanding is that people that support Andrew Tate are basically sweeping it up for him because they feel as if the sort of prosecution is not really something that you ought to defend, because it is something that is natural to Romania for them to be so malicious against him. And so what I'm trying to say here is that I think that basically, you know, this sort of sex trafficking, what is the huge immorality again when you have all these porn studios which are disavowed by many groups that are on the right. These sort of porn studios will get these 18-year-olds and lie to them about so and so and so and so, but who gets arrested for sex trafficking all these teenagers on Pornhub? I don't see that happening. So it seems to me as if this is targeted prosecution over somebody who's famous.
I don't. None of that has anything to do with what I'm saying, so I don't know what I'm supposed to say to any of that.
Well, no, no, no. What the point was there is that clearly there is a group of a lot of people that do what Andrew Tate does, but all the scrutiny is on Andrew. Whereas you don't hear, like, I've never heard of this sex trafficking of this specific, very niche culture until just now, which is to say, and I've known about sex trafficking like in other contexts, but it's precisely this sort of cam girl thing that is screwing over Andrew. How come
You know
that is
that
the case?
Romania is one of the most hotly investigated countries in the world for sex trafficking. There was a ring of sex traffickers that were caught using literally the exact same lover boy method. Like, sex trafficking in Romania is known to be a huge problem. It's probably one of the reasons why Romania and DICOT are so aggressive in prosecuting it, especially when a man is openly bragging about it. But if you happen to have any information regarding sex traffickers that you believe aren't being dealt with, I mean, you're welcome to submit that information to DICOT yourself. Do you have any of that information, or are you just
I need
assuming
a
there's a
snitch.
ton that's
I'm just kidding.
okay?
Yeah,
So
no.
I mean,
Okay,
so
you,
and again,
okay.
it seems like we're conceding the fact that then he is a trafficker, and now we're pivoting to is OnlyFans immoral, or I don't know any of these other weird other points, but
No, I mean, I'm just trying to draw a comparison in my logic, for instance, with it with Donald Trump, right, where they nitpick him on stuff where I guess he is technically guilty. I'm just saying that there really isn't a relative amount of immorality as compared to everybody else in the sector, is what I'm saying. So, for instance, with Andrew, again, how does okay, for instance, since you read more about this than I have, do you think that Andrew is any more or less guilty than Tristan, since they're twin brothers? How does the communications work? Because I've seen subpoenas and screenshots from other WhatsApp group chats where they do say some pretty gross stuff about the women. But how do you compare the culpability of the brothers, given that Andrew's the older one?
it doesn't. It's not relevant. I don't think them being brothers has anything to do with their culpability. I don't know what you mean. They've got individual charges. They have evidence that is showing both of them are being charged with different things. I can read down the indictments for Tristan if you'd like, but I mean, them being brothers is not relevant.
Well, what I'm saying is that they both, according at least following the logic of the prosecution, would be that they're both doing the lover boy method, which is to say that they both are doing something illegal in lying about the relationships sexually. But if they lied about anything else, would that also be considered illegal in the same context?
Well, it would be a different context because then it probably wouldn't be sex trafficking. It might be some other sort of fraud. So, for instance, when Andrew Tate openly talks about scamming them with their taxes, that might be some sort of like payment or employee fraud, or that might be some sort of tax fraud.
Okay, but I mean, it's kind of odd to me that you would. Okay, so for instance, let's say Andrew legitimately did want to marry them, and then he changed his mind, and they decided to stay doing cam girling. How would that not be illegal?
That
Like,
probably
what's
wouldn't
up
be
with that?
illegal, but you'd have to have a clear train of evidence that shows that, and not him explicitly talking about scamming these girls, or explicitly talking about defrauding these girls, or explicitly talking about seducing these girls for the purposes of sex trafficking, which it seems there's a rich history of text messages of them doing exactly that.
Okay, so the presumption of innocence, I guess, was lost in what you were saying from what I heard, because it seems to me as if you had claimed that had because they had this huge chain of custody, as I mentioned before about the subpoenas with the chat, where basically the Tates were saying that, oh, we're gonna lie about having them over here as lovers as we're getting married. But had that not existed, you would have been okay with what they did, insofar as they didn't technically lie and they just changed their mind about the situation.
Yeah, that's correct. The lying and the fraud part is a pretty important part of proving deceit. Yeah. So if they reached out to a girl in London, they're like, "Hey, you seem really cool. Maybe we should date. Also, do you want to like do like sex work and shit? Like, do you want to like do OnlyFans? I'll manage you." That'd be a-okay, because that would no longer be sex trafficking, because you'd be missing the means there, which is deception or coercion or fraud. Yes, that's a pretty important part of that.
Okay, so you don't actually have a moral quandary with what they did, other than that they lied about some of it. Is that basically
Correct.
your point?
If you want to do OnlyFans or manage OnlyFans girls or do any of that, that's totally fine. But when you lie about it, that's when it becomes a scam.
Okay, so I think I understand your point then. So your problem is that they lied about certain issues. You didn't bring up that they did technically like defraud the government of taxes or their employee. So I don't know how much you viscerally care about that, but again,
I
you're
mean, I
standing by
literally
the.
brought that up. That was one of the parts I said they might catch
I
an
brought it
extra
up
charge for
first.
that.
Okay.
That's fine that you did,
Yep.
but we're not talking about whether or not they committed tax fraud. That's a separate conversation. We're talking about whether they committed sex trafficking. That's the big thing that they're probably going to get in trouble for. The tax fraud is also bad too, but
Yeah. Now, another point I wanted to make here is what is your take on the responsibility of these grown women to say, wow, this guy's not marrying me. There's literally like 20 other 25-year-old chicks in this like dorm thing with me. How come I don't leave? Like, how come they didn't leave right away? Like, isn't that pretty obvious that he's not going to literally marry all 30 of these chicks at the same time?
possibly, yeah.
So possibly Destiny. Are you kidding me? Come on, you're saying that they didn't notice that it was clearly a lie
I'm
right
saying
away,
that the
but they
women
chose
aren't
to
on
stay?
trial for being stupid, so I really don't care if they're stupid. They probably are stupid. I hate most women, so I probably agree with that. But that's not what they're
Okay,
on trial for. Most people that
brother.
fall for scams, when people call them on the phone and ask them for Microsoft payment cards or whatever, are also generally pretty dumb. But an old person being stupid and falling for a scammer doesn't make the scammer not a scammer. So I'm not really concerned with that.
Okay, we're gonna upgrade the IQ from senile old person, i.e., Joe Biden, to sentient 100 IQ Romanian 25-year-old chick. I think that she, and you already conceded, is probably smart enough to say, you know what, this guy probably lied about the whole lover boy thing, but he's gonna have sex with me once a week and he'll pimp me out and I'll cam girl, and that's okay. You're saying that what? That these girls are not boneheaded? I think you were conceding that they are, right?
Well, now you're alleging conspiracy on their part. Do you have any evidence of that? That they were knowingly entering an illegal deal with the attempts to frame them later or to make money off of them attempting to traffic them?
No, what I am saying is that, yeah, if they were lied to at the beginning, that is immoral on Andrew's part. What I am saying, though, is that they could have left at any point thereafter, and any reasonable person would have. I would have. And so that is to say that, you know what? If you're stuck in a dormitory with all these different girls that are getting prostituted, and women are smart, they know who the bottom bitch is, they know who they're getting whippings from. Clearly, Andrew Tate has some tard wranglers that are involved, like Ghislaine Maxwell's of his movement, and they still chose to be in there. So how come they didn't want to do that? What is your point here?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't really thought much about the victim's state of mind. I don't really care. It's not really relevant to the charges. There's a million questions we could ask about their behavior. Why did you go to another country? Why did you let somebody do OnlyFans with you? Why, I don't know. There's a million things you could theoretically ask them. But again, they're not on trial, so I'm not really as interested in that. And I haven't seen any evidence one way or another about their state of mind.
All right, I'm
Okay,
gonna
so
inject here, guys, just to remind you that the charges here that have been laid before Andrew Tate, because we have been, really going down the human trafficking route. The other charges are organizing a criminal group to sexually exploit women, and the other charge is, well, straight up, Andrew Tate is guilty of the R word. So let's move into the let's let you guys wrap up. So we've been talking for about 20 minutes in open discussion. Let's let you wrap up that point, and let's move into after that the idea of organizing, a group to sexually exploit women.
yeah, okay. So my final point in relation to this would be that basically that Destiny is making a point that he's morally okay with literally everything that Andrew has done in the context of this discussion specifically. But his only problem is that he lied about it. Frankly, if I, as a Christian, had a problem with it, is that literally everything, including the lying, but the lying wouldn't even be the most of it. So I guess that's just a different of worldview. And so from that standpoint, I don't see how Destiny could sincerely really give a crap about this Andrew Tate stuff, other than for the fact that he doesn't like Andrew Tate personally, is I think the issue, because again, he doesn't really seem motivated in this case, morally speaking, because he already conceded that if you want to do porn, if you want to do so and so, it's not a big deal. And so I guess his two major criticisms of Tate is that he was facetious about marrying these women, but he also concedes the fact that obviously these women knew right away the jig was up, that he wasn't going to marry them, at least for the most part, when they walked in on like 20 different chicks of the same age, not marrying Andrew. And moreover, this other point, again, he might have screwed them over on like tax stipends or whatever. Okay, yeah, sure. So that is my final point.
All right. Just to remind everybody, we are going to do a Q&A at the end of this discussion. So we're going to try to move it into, I know that the first part of this discussion is going to remain relevant for the rest of our debate here. So, don't mind that. But we're going to move into the idea of organizing a crime group to sexually exploit women. So not just beyond Andrew Tate, but also just the idea of anybody doing that. So let's move into that hypothetical. So let's pass it back to Stephen, and thanks for being here, everybody.
Wait, so what is I mean, you shouldn't do that. I think that's bad. What is the question here?
So the second charge that he's been charged with, so we're going to be discussing whether this is justified in terms of Andrew Tate and also whether this is justified under any means, is forming and organizing a crime group to sexually exploit women. Or a group. I shouldn't put crime in there, but I mean, like, that's how it's been described on Google, so that's what I said.
All right. Yeah. I mean, again, if they've done sex trafficking, I mean, it's kind of plays into our earlier argument. If they were trafficking and they've organized a group to facilitate said trafficking and manage the finances of business thereof, then that seems like it would logically follow. No, of course.
Right. Okay, so from my understanding, there is this whole dynamic of the rape situation. Now, okay, listen, there's a whole grape fruit incident here. And what I wanted to point out is that, how much proof is there really that he forced himself on anybody? Now, it seems to me as if this is a way bigger deal than the sex trafficking. So what are the charges in respect to that? I don't know what they would be necessarily. So it seems to me as if, but actually,
yeah.
Wait, can I get the question repeated?
Yeah, so we're talking about the idea of, we already went over the idea of the, whether he was guilty of the sex trafficking, and what we think of that. I mean, like I said, it's going to be tied into everything we talk about here. But the other part of his charges is that he's been charged with organizing a crime group to sexually exploit women. So before we get into the R word charge, let's talk about the organizing a group to sexually exploit women. Is Andrew Tate guilty of that?
Oh, okay, great. So basically, I honestly think that with Andrew Tate, it's very clear to point out that when you're looking at the face of this whole narrative I'm spinning here, I think that there's ostensibly nobody more prosecuted than Andrew, but even more than that, that when we're conspiring this whole image and this web of like, oh my God, they're conspiring to do rape things to women, I just think that that's bald-faced not even true. And moreover, when we're talking about Andrew, why does he need to do these things to women, frankly? Like, I'm pretty sure there's enough whores to go around that he could do BDSM or whatever kink, like sort of queer stuff he wants to do there. So it seems pretty obvious to me that it doesn't seem like a good motivation to take over these women sexually and to abuse them in that sense, or even the people around him that we don't know their names of. Moreover, again, what does it say about these women that don't freaking leave? Like, assuming he didn't take their passport in all these cases, why aren't they going? If he's taking abuse of them, then they can leave. And you could say, well, that's technically illegal, bro, but it's also a morality issue. Like, hey, you're getting abused, leave. If he's punching you, move away, right? Like, come on, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, people stay in abusive relationships. Like, even using that phrase, like, if somebody's hitting you, leave. If somebody's hitting you and you don't leave, it doesn't make the relationship not abusive. So it's just not even an argument in terms of like, why do wealthy people, rape non-wealthy people? I mean, like, I'm sure Epstein could have found some 14-year-olds that were into him. Does that mean that he wasn't a child rapist? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what that argument is. It's not even an argument. It's just like a random musing that doesn't make any sense and doesn't map onto anything that we know that's actually happened in the real world. As for whether we know the rapes did or didn't happen, I mean, the ones listed in the indictments have witnesses literally listed. So I think we just have to see how that plays out in court, although I would be astounded that somebody could confidently assert that there's no way that it happened when two witnesses are literally listed on the first rape charge for Andrew Tate.
Right. So here's the thing, and what's very odd to me, Destiny, is that clearly there's subpoenas showing in detail how they lied and were being facetious about their love for these women and how they were going to marry them in Romania, and how when they got there that there was all these other women at the same time. Okay, coincidence. Anyway, so you're mentioning all these WhatsApp group chats, thousands of messages, and how is it that they didn't mention, bro, I just anally did this, bro, I didn't, like, why would they not brag about that in the text if they're already admitting to illegal shit on the record on these WhatsApp messages?
Are you confident that they didn't do that?
Well, I'm pretty sure, I'm confident that if you've been debating this long on the internet, that you would have brought up a really good salient point with evidence, because clearly you would know that.
Well, I'm just going by what's listed in the indictments, but I mean, Are you saying that like you don't? I just want to hear you say this on the record because you're making it sound like you've read through all the text. I haven't. It's 360 pages for this indictment. I haven't read through every single text message, but you're telling me that you're confident that within these text messages they don't brag about raping or fucking these girls against their will ever?
No, I've read like 5 of those pages of the text, and so far I've not encountered that. And I was assuming that you would have at this point, and it seems like you haven't. And I just think that generally speaking, when they were talking about the worst stuff, and if you watch the Willie Mack video and other like documentary like sort of things, you'll notice that what they detail is something about how they got a boob job on a girl and they like ripped the stitches off or got a girl to do it, not that they actually did it themselves. There's another point that a year ago when Andrew was viral in the first place in the summer of 22, they brought up that he like did BDSM with the girl, but then the girl later admitted that it was okay. So it seems to me as if there's really no tangible evidence of the rape. And in regards to the 2 witnesses, what were their accounts in your recounting that would seem to be definitive proof, or at least enough to really categorize him as a assaulter of women?
I don't think that their full accounts are listed in the indictment, their exact statements. So I'm not sure. But what about the one text message from Andrew Tate where he literally, this is a WhatsApp one. This is a while ago where he literally WhatsApped that woman. This might have been, he said it. I think we get the audio leaks of this where he said, "I loved raping you."
What? Well, I mean, if he said that to a girl, then clearly that is like sarcasm or something.
Okay, so then initially you set the threshold as if they did this, wouldn't they have said it in a text message? And I specifically remember hearing a voice message where he did say this, and now you're saying he was joking. So it sounds like there's no evidence I could provide you where it would meet your threshold. So then I don't know why you
Okay,
asked me
but
for evidence at all.
okay, Destiny, what guy would literally say, "Oh, I loved raping you," by the way?
Well, I
If
don't
you
know.
were
Initially,
actually
you told me
guilty?
that if they had done something guilty, they would have admitted it in text messages. And now that I've shown you a message where they've done it, you've changed it to, well, what guy would ever admit that? So which one was it? Did you not mean your original question?
No, I think I meant it the way I actually meant it, and you kind of autistically said,
Yeah, can you
"Well,
tell me how
no,
you originally
technically they
meant
said."
it?
Look, I think that Andrew didn't convey
No, no. Can you
the
tell me what
like if
your original question was? How did you originally mean it? I'm curious. I don't understand. I am autistic, so explain it out to me very clearly. Initially, it
okay,
sounded like you said if they did something guilty, they would have admitted it in a message. Can you explain what you meant when you said that?
that they would have said, "Oh, by the way, I did this to this girl, and now she's bitching about this thing. Take care of it," or something. That's how, like, usually if you were to like in a RICO investigation, the cartel guy would be like, "Oh, I whacked this guy," not like passionately, like, "Oh, by the way, ha ha ha." No, that people aren't stupid. They're not going to say that. "Oh, I loved raping you." That is not a realistic thing to use as evidence. Clearly, he would have said something like, "Oh, Tristan, by the way, I did this to this girl, and now she's seething about it." And then that would detail that he did abuse the girl in such a way to where she was traumatized after. That would actually make more sense in context.
At the very least, we could say it's some sort of weird kink. But let's carry on.
Yeah, sus. It's he's sussy. Andrew is sussy. I get it. It's fine.
I don't know. I mean, he's got a voice message where he was fighting with one girl where he literally said it. I think she was complaining about their sexual encounter. And I remember listening to this because a lot of Tate fanboys were saying, "Oh no, it's deep fakes." He literally said, "I loved raping you." Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Okay.
I was just
Yeah.
joking, everybody. I have no idea what's going on here. I'm just listening and moderating, of course. Let's carry on, everybody, and keep those super chats coming in because we do want to get your thoughts. Let's carry it on over to Lalo.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up the point in respect to this whole thing of Andrew Tate being guilty of it. It's like, again, this whole fixation over this text message, again, is that the best that the DGG can send into the chat of like, well, he said, lol, what was it? Oh, thanks for letting me rape you, or I enjoyed it. Clearly, that is not something that is proving anybody guilty. If Steven said that about a girl, I would say this is just some gay kink thing. And I think it doesn't get anywhere past that. I think he's had an evidence of having this weird sexual proclivity with like spanking a girl, but that was consensual. So it's pretty obvious here that it's more so of the same thing. And so I think you're kink shaming and meat watching Andrew, frankly, if you're going to assume that that is actual concrete evidence that he is guilty.
I don't think it's concrete evidence that he's guilty, but it seemed to be strong enough evidence for at least 3 judges to look at it and seal or sign off on an indictment for a charge of rape. I can't be for sure because we haven't had the trial yet, but I think it's pretty foolish to say that 3 judges signed off on this and said it was compelling reason to believe that a rape charge was appropriate here, and for some reason you've completely written it off. I don't know why, but
So what I noticed in your intonation with your defense or whatever is that you're just like indifferent, like I don't know, I'm not sure, but here's this. It's like I mean at that point I might as well just be talking to like some Filipino T-Mobile worker, like oh here are the rules, here it is. It's like well I mean where is the passion, destiny? Where is the specific vocalization of a point that would be kind of not concise but also kind of deliberate, where you would say something like well Andrew did this and he's a scumbag for this reason. Instead you just kind of relate and appeal to the authority of the law, which is like anyway, you're also saying like three judges in Romania signed off on this, like as if I respect the country of Romania. You ought to be talking in an American context. How would a rape case be done differently in America in a way that we would both admit is a cleaner process than to throw these two brothers into a jail, which frankly the other people that they're complicit in doing these crimes with are not in the same incarceration sequence where they've been in jail for the better part of like 8 months. So explain.
No, I won't. I don't care what this is in an American context. This is the Romanian case for people that are in the country of Romania. Why would I care about how they would prosecute in the United States of America? It's not under U.S. jurisdiction.
I mean, but wouldn't you say that the American legal system is better than the Romanian?
I don't know. This isn't a debate about which legal system is better.
See, you have to appeal to all these technicalities. I would expect more from you, Stephen. It's like at this point, just say like, okay, in an American context, he would not be in jail for this reason, but it's still he's still probably guilty. But that's what you have, probably guilty. Not this idea of like, oh, all of a sudden, what I mean, what's your greater point here? I think you're just really playing by the book in regards to your defense of
I
Andrew Tate
am.
being guilty.
Yeah,
You are playing by the book?
I am playing by the book because this is a legal proceeding, which means we're play by the book, which was the Romanian Criminal Code and Romanian Criminal Procedure.
Okay, so if you were found guilty of something in Romania, you are just as guilty as somebody in America, even though America has more stringent evidence requirements or has a more fair judicial system overall.
If I'm in the country of Romania, I have to play by Romanian rules. Yes, that's how it works when you travel the world. When you go to another country, you respect that country's laws, and you can be prosecuted under that country's criminal system. Yes.
Also, so what is covered in the sex trafficking laws of Romania?
Wait, can you
that would
admit
say,
that can you admit that your point is ridiculous? I think I need to start pulling concessions out of you. The US criminal code has absolutely no relevancy to prosecuting a case in Romania under the Romanian criminal code for people committing crimes in Romania, correct?
yeah, of course.
Okay.
What I am saying is that I'm an American. I would hold somebody who's kind of American, like Andrew, under the morality here, not what's going on over there. Because over there, clearly, there's probably thousands of people that are thrown in jail with much less evidence than Andrew. So it seems to me as if, holding up to any regard at all the Romanian legal system is just very biased on your part.
Okay. Can you tell me that we're not having a moral debate right now? We're having a legal one, right? We're not talking about did he morally sex traffic somebody. We're talking about whether he is under the legal definition in Romania of sex trafficking. So we're not having a moral conversation. Can you acknowledge that?
Yeah, I think that was the auspices of the debate. But what I am saying is that I think that as somebody who has literally, like, you have this huge advantage over me in respect to the evidence and whatever, and you're clearly still like, you're still not really making a passionate defense. You're just playing it safe, and it's like, just go for the touchdown. You're here like getting field goals. I don't understand how, in your opinion, somebody who lies about the details about how he gets girls into his place also rapes the chicks, but also they don't leave ever. I mean, it seems to me as if this is not really a strong argument on your end.
You said play safe. I mean, in the NFL, how often do people go for 2-point conversions over field goals?
Do you think it's that close of a debate? I'm actually honored. Yeah. Okay. Good
I'm
point.
saying it was
Yeah,
a
you're
close
right.
debate. Are you telling me that in the NFL, when teams are ahead, do they normally run the 2-point conversion?
Yeah, if you're dabbing on somebody, if I were 15 years older than my opponent, I would be
Mhm.
just squatting and shitting on them like an Indian. Yeah, of course I would do that. But it seems to me as if you are not really, again, a lot of what I find a quandary with you with is that you're not looking at the victim and not blaming them at all. And yeah, people will call that victim blaming, but it's also just holding everybody into account. Andrew, are you a perverted, like money hungry scumbag? Yes, but that is also everybody else. But who's getting all the scrutiny? It is just Andrew, not even his brother as much, which is to say that clearly this is a biased thing against him.
To be fair, I will clarify that the charges that have been laid before Andrew, it does clarify that they have been laid upon his brother Tristan and two other men that are also facing the same charges. So
2 other women. Yeah.
I wasn't sure what that was. I just was reading off of this blurb here. So I'll let you guys carry on. Remind everybody that we're doing our super chats for our Q&A after this debate. And once again, thanks for everybody for being here. Let's carry on.
Okay. So right now, I had a point to make, and it was that Destiny's whole point and the underpinning is that it's only immoral because he lied. But he lied about what? Is it fraud? Well, he lied to them, and I guess what did they get out of going to Romania other than a free plane ticket that they would have gone otherwise had they just slept with them normally? They got what, to be a cam girl and got ripped off on the taxes, which means that they did make profit off of what they were doing more so than what they were getting back home. Because if they weren't making a lot more money, then why the hell would they stay with an abuser that is potentially taking advantage of them sexually, and moreover lying about them and using the lover boy method as Destiny posited before? Which is to say that, again, how is this that much of an extortion when they clearly have the ability to escape and the dog still comes back? It seems like, how stupid are these women is what I'm saying.
I don't know. Don't really care. Conversation is about how dumb the women are. I wouldn't ask that question for any scam victim. How dumb was the victim? It's not really relevant to what's being talked about.
Okay, so on one hand, you're saying, okay, don't care about any of the morality aside from Andrew and those people around him. Okay, now you're also saying, don't even scrutinize him under what we would scrutinize literally everybody else under in American law, but instead just only follow the purview of a less evidentially, how would you say, evidentially rigorous program under the Romanian judicial system. So what you're saying is, again, so you're conceding that, all right, in America, Andrew wouldn't be as guilty because there'd be more procedures that would actually be more diligent about discovery and whatever else, and they wouldn't just lock him up in a prison for this long or in a jail cell.
Can
And
you
you're
give me an
also saying
example?
that,
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. So as I was saying, so they lock him up all this time without getting all the evidence together. What makes you think they did that? Why couldn't they just leave him in house arrest like he is right now? Clearly
So
isn't
you,
leaving the country.
yeah, you keep appealing to this idea that the knowledge or the intention or something of the victims like matter for this. Can you give me an example in the United States where you can scam somebody and if they act sufficiently stupid, you're okay to scam them?
Well, I actually dispute the fact that he even scammed them past a certain point. So I think that in an American legal and again, part of the reason why you initially didn't even want to concede whether or not America would be more stringent on prosecuting somebody like Andrew is because I think you subconsciously understand that he wouldn't be as guilty, or it'd be a more difficult, longer process to put him in through prison like the Romanians are trying to do. So I think that fundamentally just disproves what you were trying to ask me.
I don't even know what that meant. I'm asking, in the United States, is there an example where maybe you could try to scam somebody and if they acted stupid enough, you wouldn't get in trouble for it? Can you give me an example of that?
Where you directly, again, I contest the fact that he even scammed them to this, like to the legal law, to the legal extent in an American context. That's what you're asking me, right?
Well,
In
did
an
he
American
mislead?
purview.
Did he mislead them about his feelings about them, or did he truly want to marry every single
So, but
girl?
is misleading somebody over marrying them something that you would actually get sued for in America, or moreover put in prison, hard time for that? Really?
If you used that and then transported them or harbored them somewhere and then made money off of them doing sex work, yes, because it would be called sex trafficking. How do you think pimps and hookers work?
Pimps and hookers. I think, isn't it prostitution that is illegal? You don't hear pimps getting in jail more so than prostitutes do, right?
You don't think a pimp? You don't think it's illegal to be a pimp in the United States of America?
No, I'm just saying, how come the media never covers that? Like, when has a pimp ever gone to jail in my purview? I don't know. But what I will say is that prostitutes get in trouble all the time, which is to say that maybe the American legal system is more against women than the Romanian one. Isn't that kind of odd?
No, in the United States, pimping is a third-degree felony conviction in a lot of states. So I don't know where you get this idea that pimping is legal or you wouldn't get in trouble for it, but it's a serious felony in the United States.
Also, isn't there something distinctly different from pimping, which is mostly like, I guess, I don't know what you would do, like get some poor 15-year-old girl and then try to whore her out versus what Andrew did, which is like get these grown women and like lie to them about being in love with them or something?
No,
There's a big difference.
no, there's not.
Why not? What do you mean? That's a huge differential in consent.
No, it's not.
Really?
You can't consent to being sex trafficked.
Okay, come on. Really? Okay, so this is just kind of ridiculous to point out in the grand scheme of things, where you're saying that it's on one hand reasonable to say that you're getting sex trafficked just because you were lied to about how you were going to get to Romania and what was going to happen there, but yet you don't change your mind after you know the truth. It's kind of like at that point, right? You get it. Now, my analogy is this. Imagine if, for instance, you were lied to and, okay, God, look, okay, this is going to sound weird, but let's say somebody said, hey, I'm actually a girl, and then you sleep and then you find out it's a guy, and then you still go for it. Yeah, did he lie to you? Sure, but I mean, like, you're still kind of like, I would stop. Like, how come these women don't stop is my question. They knew what, like, after a certain point, they knew what was going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really care. It's not part of what the question is for all the women did or didn't get scammed. The question is whether or not they, whether the Tates are scammers. So
So, okay, they're scammers because of the sex stuff, but wouldn't you hold it more against them that they've made more money scamming young men with Hustlers University than whatever couple dozen cam girls they've had?
no,
Isn't that a bigger deal if they made a lot more money that way?
I don't care if it's a bigger deal. We're asking about what's legal or illegal. As far as I'm aware, that's totally legal. Them selling sex, them working OnlyFans, them doing that is all completely legal. So that's not what I'm concerned about right now because we're having a legal
Okay,
discussion on whether or not they're sex traffickers. We're not having a discussion on the morality of OnlyFans.
okay, and do you agree with the potential sentencing guidelines in respect to the Romanian law if they're found guilty of this specific thing, or do you disagree at all?
I don't know what the particular sentencing guidelines are for these crimes.
But isn't that an important detail for you to know? Because on one hand, you were making a point about how I didn't know whether or not there was like a rape reference in the WhatsApp messages, which there are hundreds of, but you also don't even know the fundamental like amount of time they'd be in prison for the thing that you're debating about right now.
No, I'm not here debating on whether or not their sentence would be fair or whether the conviction guidelines are fair. I'm only interested in whether or not they sex traffic because that's what the conversation is about. It's not a conversation about whether or not the particular sentencing guidelines are too much or
Okay.
too little.
All right. So now I have a narrative here, and I'm glad that you said that. So basically, I don't care if the women were basically clued in on what was happening after they were initially lied to, and the fact that most of them didn't leave. But I also, Destiny, I don't care if he gets thrown in prison for his entire life. I only care about the technicality of whether or not he's a sex trafficker, not how long he needs to be put in prison, not even for his sake, but for the sake of the women that he took advantage of. You care about the fact that they were lied to. So these women that were lied to, but also stayed with him for this long, you care about them personally, that he would be labeled a sex trafficker, but you don't even give a shit whether or not he gets thrown in jail for 2 years, 5 years, a decade. How come you don't care about that?
Because that's not what the topic of this conversation is. Might be interesting to have a conversation on guidelines. For instance, if they had it so that it was a mandatory execution for being a sex trafficker, I don't know if I'd be okay with that. But that's not what the conversation for this debate is about. It's whether or not we think that he should be charged, I guess, with sex trafficking, whether or not we believe he sex trafficked those girls, which it seems like you've all but conceded at this point, which is why we're now talking about whether or not the conviction or the sentencing guidelines are fair or not.
Okay, so again, but that underlies the whole point. The reason why we have things that are illegal is because they have consequences to them. So for you to just completely mentally divorce whether or not you have something that is illegal and how long you get in jail for it is pretty much understandably something that you ought to point out and morally reason with yourself in front of everybody. Because clearly, if they're going to prison, at least in most contexts, that means that you're going to jail for upwards of a year at least, which is to say that you're okay with him going to jail for a year, prison for over a year, but yet you didn't even make that point. Isn't that a pretty obvious concession that if he is guilty of this, that you would want him in jail for multiple years?
No, I don't think so. Do you think that Hunter Biden was wrong to lie on his firearm ATF form when he purchased a firearm that he'd committed a felony or that he'd been doing drugs?
Well, unlike most people on the right wing, I would say actually, I don't actually care if he lied about it that much. Now, what I do have a bigger problem with is that he had, obviously he was on drugs the whole time, but he also like put these guns in like a dumpster, not even a
Mhm.
dumpster, but like the residential suburban like trash can. So
Mhm.
clearly the guy was way off.
Yeah.
Plus
Do you
the
think that,
14-year-old
do you
lease
think it was
thing
wrong for him to do that?
to throw away the guns in such a way that they were loaded in the trash can where
Mhm.
like anybody could have just opened it.
Yeah.
Was that wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, that's more of a nitpick. I actually don't even care about that. I care more about the
Do you
fact
think he
that
did anything wrong or illegal at all, or do you just have no opinions whatsoever? Because you know that my next question is going to be, what's the sentencing guidelines for it? You're not going to have the answer to that. And then I'm going to ask you, do you think it's okay to feel like that should be illegal without knowing the sentencing guidelines for it? So you're avoiding walking into the trap by just having no opinion on anything he's done.
you read 3 steps too forward in the meta. I wasn't thinking that far. I was thinking more so the fact that you were pointing out something along the lines of how this guy Hunter Biden is guilty of something. Now, if you were to ask me, Lalo, well, what's the sentencing guidelines? It's not even that I'm asking you that. I'm just asking you as a man. Like, okay, this guy clearly is derelict about his gun control, or anything in response to that, or possessing drugs and not being a responsible human being. And I could actually say, well, you know what? If you threw your guns in the dumpster loaded like an idiot, well, you should get 6 months in jail or something like that. Or Hunter Biden shouldn't own guns. I'll admit that. You can't say, well, Andrew Tate should go to jail for X amount of time. Why don't you have the moral courage to just say something like that?
Well, I don't know what the guidelines are in Romania. I'm not even sure what an appropriate sentence would be. I don't have a strong feeling on that. So
Right. Whereas I could say, you know what, if Andrew is actually a rapist, he should be killed for it. Or you know what, he should be executed. Or you know what, he should get 20 years in prison. I'll be open about that. You're not even saying like, oh well, like you won't even give a number, not even a ballpark. What the hell? Really?
Yeah, I don't know if I believe in instantaneous execution for people that break the law.
Okay. Well, that kind of misses the whole precept here. I give you three certain things. Okay.
Well, I think the
20
precept is like very
years.
simple. Do you think that Andrew Tate, under Romanian criminal law, do you think he's a sex trafficker? Has he met the definitions? And if not, which one has he failed to meet for you so far?
Okay, repeat that last part right now. So far something.
So the three core elements needed to prove sex trafficking in Romanian criminal law are the act, meaning he needs to do something, the means, meaning he needs a certain method by which he uses, and the purpose, meaning for making money off of them doing sex work. And my argument is that he has recruited, transported, and received people. That is the act. For the means, he has used fraud and deception. That is the means. And for the purpose, it is for making money off of them sex trafficking. Do you agree that he's met all three of those points, which would therefore mean that he is a sex trafficker under the Romanian criminal code? Or is there some point that you believe he hasn't met? And if not, which one?
Yeah, I think that overall, hmm, I think my whole disagreement with you is not over the technicalities of it. It's not whether or not he personally lied to them about the lover boy method. It is to say, you know what? How come these women didn't leave their raptor? How come you can't come up with a reasonable, vague estimation, even within a 10-year boundary? Where is this guy going to end up after he's guilty of such a thing? You have this detailed explanation as to how he is guilty, yet you don't have even the most basic of an inference as to how exactly he is supposed to be punished. I, as a person who would actually care if he lied to these women, I would say, you know what? You should lose your clout, Andrew. You should be banned off of social media if you're pimping out these hoes on the internet or something like that. But instead, you won't even give that. How come?
Because that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about whether or not we believe he's a sex trafficker under the Romanian criminal code definition. And it seems to be the case that we both agree that he is indeed a sex trafficker. Because it seems to me that you can't point on any of these two things, the act or the means, or the third thing, the purpose, that he fails to meet the definition of. So it feels like we both think he's a sex trafficker. I guess you want to have a separate conversation over what his punishment ought to be, which I guess is fair, but I'm not as concerned about that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Actually, this is the analogy. Imagine this is Destiny circa 2018 when I was watching him in high school. And I said, you know what, Destiny, do you think illegal immigration is bad? That's a very stupid question because you kind of already understand that, yeah, technically it's illegal, but it's not really an immoral thing in your estimation, or at least like you're more sympathetic to that. And so, with that being said, it's like I think Andrew's an illegal immigrant when it comes to the sussiness of whether or not he sex trafficked women. Like, did he technically do it according to your very autistic Reddit explanation? Yeah, sure. But spirit of the law wise, morality wise, is he guilty like the way that you're espousing him to be? No. And clearly, you're not very passionate about the topic, which is to say that you don't actually viscerally care too much, which is to also say, because you're not a sociopath, which is also to point out that he's not this person that is really that evil. Because if you were, I would feel more of like a reason to actually be mad, but you're not at all. You're completely calm, which is understandable because you're trying to prosecute him and condemn him over a technicality of the law and not even espousing anything in regards to sentencing, the morality, immorality of it, or anything, because your only contention there was that he lied about one detail. But is lying the biggest deal? Are you okay with white lies, etc.? That's a bigger discussion. But like I said, yeah, is he sussy on the legality? Yeah. But the same way that an illegal alien is not an evil person and is not really that immoral just because they cross the border illegally, I don't think it's a big deal. That must mean also that I think Andrew Tate, in summation, is an illegal alien.
Okay. I mean, that's fine that you think that, but I think you've conceded the entire argument to me, so I don't know what else to say. Seems like you call it a technicality, but that's fine. It's the law. The law is by definition technical, and by the technical definition of the law, it seems as though he's a sex trafficker. If you want to have a separate conversation about what he ought to be sentenced to, or if sex trafficking is morally wrong, I guess that's another conversation to be had. But
Well, then let's move on to the last charge that he has been put forth with, which is that he has been charged with the big R word. So kick it back to you, Stephen, for thoughts on that specific charge. So there are three there are 3 charges specifically against Andrew Tate, and then there is his brother Tristan, and then as Steven said, there's 2 other women. Like I said, I'm reading from a blurb here, so don't mind me, everybody. But the very first thing that is here that he's been charged with is the big R word. Let's kick it over to Steven. Let's try not to get demonetized.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I mean, he's been charged for at least one of them. There are 2 witnesses, but I don't know. I mean, if he did it, he did it. But I don't know what else we could possibly argue about from that.
My response to that, I actually agree with Steven. You know, what am I going to say here? You know what? I'll come up with something because that's what I'm good at. Basically, I think that any sort of R word accusations are not founded in reality. We have the best mind in the sector talking about how he said, loved raping you, by the way, as if that's supposed to mean something, as if that weren't sarcastic, as if he's not somebody who's perverted. Like, obviously, Andrew Tate is somebody with these kinks, and I disavow that completely. That is really weird. But you know what? It's not illegal. So if we're going, actually, I'm a lawyer on the internet. Okay, fine. You know what? That is not illegal for him to say that I loved raping you, because clearly that in the proper context would probably be more normal. He was probably talking about some weird like choke play, but girls are into that nowadays. So I guess that's okay. So I'm just saying, let's not king shame Andrew. And clearly just using that sort of like main evidential piece is not enough. It doesn't fly.
Thoughts over there, Steven?
I mean, there's witnesses saying that there was physical, verbal, and psychological coercion for rape. So we just have to wait and see what it looks like in court. But I mean, obviously, I don't think either of us agree that would be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. If he actually did it, I'll go on the record and say if Andrew actually violently did something to these women, he ought to get the worst of it. But I guess Destiny won't say that, which is odd. Like, just, and again, I'm not somebody who argues. Like, I don't even debate. This is just more like me arguing with you. I don't need like this whole thing about concessions, or if Steven wants to say, you know what, actually agree with your precept, Lalo. Actually, yeah, he should go to jail if he did that. But he won't even say that. I don't know why he's being so close guarded about his opinions about Andrew Tate. I think he's had plenty of hours on, and many moons have gone by where he's considered the morality of this thing, and for him to not even give a little iota of like a scintilla of emotion, or even more than that, more importantly, any sort of restitution to these women that have been trafficked, clearly it would seem to me as if like anybody with a brain cell over the age of 30 would actually say, you know what, this guy should go to jail, and for X amount of time, or even something approximating a time. But instead he doesn't even do that.
Okay. I don't know what the sentencing guidelines are. I don't really care. It's not really relevant to the question. So
Okay.
All right. Well, if you guys had any other thoughts about this before we move into the Q&A, we got around, 10 minutes that we usually have of open discussion. So if you guys wanted to move into the Q&A, that's fine. But if there was anything else that you kind of wanted to push,
Okay.
all right, let's go for
I
it.
got one little thing, a little blurb that came up to me right now, and it has to do with, you know, this whole grape situation, right? And so now that we're talking about the act and the fruit of the grape, we need to be speaking about how, you know, is there an accusation in that Destiny has read where he held a knife to a woman's throat, or he physically did something to a girl that would insinuate that he had actual lethal force over a girl to abuse them? It seems to me as if the accusation, if being reasonable, would say, no, he just did it and he kind of alluded to it, but not really. It was a joke. So again, are you saying there was a gun to their head? What like
a
what's
gun
the
or a
accusation?
weapon? No, but doesn't he brag about being a multi-world champion kickboxer? Why would he need a gun to intimidate a woman with violence?
Yeah, but I mean, you could say that about any man, that they have a power advantage. Now, him, whether or not he
We're
was a
not saying we had a
kickboxer
power
10 years.
advantage. The allegation is that he used physical and verbal coercion to force a woman to have sex with him.
Physical, great. So do you think he violently did anything to these women at any point that was unconsensual?
That's what's being alleged in the indictment, and I guess that's what we'll find out in court. I have no reason to doubt the indictment, but I mean, obviously, we should wait and see what happens in court.
Shouldn't? Wait. I have no reason to doubt the indictment. Isn't it the whole precept of the American dream is to say, you know what, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt? Not like I have no reason to doubt the accuser. No, I need to doubt the accuser because clearly, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the interest here of getting Andrew in jail would also say like, hey, here's pictures of this girl with like a bruise on her neck, with like her butt like marked or bloody or something. But instead, that's not even there. I mean, what? So he like said, oh, get over here, and then what? He just physically just stood there, and they were imposed, and there's no proof of that. What do you mean?
I don't know what all the proof the prosecution is going to show. I don't think you do either, so I don't know how you can so confidently say there's no proof, but okay, we'll see, I guess.
No, I'm saying I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. You're giving the
Cool, me
benefit
too.
of the
And I
doubt
think
to
that
the
we should
accusers.
see what happens in court. That's it. I mean, I'm not going to say he's guilty right now, but there's information in these indictments. I don't have any reason to believe they're just lying in the indictments, but I guess we'll see what happens, huh?
I think they're sus. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everybody. I think we may have hit the wall, and if you know what I mean by the wall, I think that's the point at which we may have reached, the point where we no longer are going to move forward. Let's try to move into our Q&A. Let's keep our chats kind of related to the topic or loosely related to the topic, whether they're chats about masculinity or Andrew Tate himself or traditional roles or, as I put it earlier, the big R word. Get them into our Q&A, and we're going to start asking those now so that we can stir the pot on some gravy discussion. All right, coming in, askers for $10. Where's the real modern day debate host? Who's this usurper? Well, yeah, I kind of fill in every once in a while. I don't know if you've been around for the last 6 months, but I've been hanging out. And yes, I'm a nobody, and I like it that way. Nobody knows.
Do you
what
even
I
have
think.
do you even have a Subway tattoo?
No, I don't. I don't get free Subway. I get free drinks every once in a while when they play my Led Zeppelin cover. Out and
Unbelievable.
about. Yeah, that's what it is. But I will be coming down to Dallas for the debate con. So check, keep an eye out for that because we're going to be giving some announcements slowly and surely for that. But in the meantime, mainly get your tickets to the September 16th event. If you're hanging out, by the way, in that live chat, I just want to let you know that like button has been begging me to take it home all night. And I want to do everything I can to smash it, but I can't. So I'm going to have to hand it to you guys. Do what you can. What else are you smashing out there? Nothing? That's what I thought. I'm a married man. There's only so much I can do. Help me out here. Let's get to the next super chat. Ride for $10. Destiny is making assumptions about Tate's state of mind. Sorry. Let's rephrase that. I'm putting the wrong emphasis on the syllable there. So Destiny is making assumption about Tate's state of mind. No one can honestly say if he loved them when he brought them over. If you remove that element, it is exactly what Destiny did with Melina. Oh, I didn't read that last part. I'm sorry about that.
It's fine. I mean, like, if there was text evidence messages of me saying I'm bringing this girl over and I'm lying about our relationship so that I can make money selling her OnlyFans, that would also be sex trafficking. But yes, I don't know why you're saying there's no evidence of a state of mind. There are plenty of crimes in the United States where we have to prove a criminal state of mind in order to show that they've committed a certain type of criminal behavior, right? We do this with, like, say, for instance, murder. You have to prove a certain state, a criminal state of mind, a mens rea, in order to actually get a conviction there. We do this with all sorts of crimes. I'm sure they do the same in Romania.
Awesome. Any thoughts over there, Lalo, before we move on?
What Ride said, I actually, I thought that was that was pretty funny. You actually said that you couldn't get personal in the debate, so I kind of left it on the table and I didn't touch it, which is hard. It was like chocolate cake. Like, should I do the Molina thing? I didn't touch it. But now that you bring it up, I think there was a chat that I actually copied and pasted into my notepad that relates just to what you read in the super chat.
Just 1 second
I thought
there, Lalo, just before we continue. Are you okay with this, Stephen?
No, go for it. Knock yourself out.
All right, thank you. Go for it,
Okay,
Lalo.
thank you. See, I go for consent, unlike allegedly Andrew. Okay, cool. So Destiny brought Melina over, had her stream for him, and be in a polyamorous relationship, which she broke down in tears on Dr. K about how emotionally distant Destiny is, also while defrauding the Swedish government on taxes.
So the Swedish government has not been defrauded on taxes. I know because we paid those. And as to whether or not my relationship with Melina constitutes sex trafficking, this is something that is quasi-investigated by the U.S. State Department when you apply for a green card. You have to tell them all the details of your relationship. You have to tell them how you met. You've got to tell them how the person came over. We went through that entire process, and apparently the U.S. State Department feels like there was no sex trafficking or illegitimate behavior involved. They were aware of our poly relationship and of her age and of her coming over. So if it's good enough for them, I feel like it should probably be good enough for the internet.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny because if you compare Destiny and Andrew, they're like very opposite. But like if you also word it in a very facetious way, it is kind of very commonplace, like what they did. But I actually think they're both innocent in this case, right? So you know what, W. Steven, whatever. Okay, it's fine.
All right, let's try to move on from there. And to all those hoof fingers out there, smack that like button. We're going to continue on from there. And as somebody who, when I was dating my wife, and sneaking into her house to take her out on dates because I was a young man. I was 18 and she was 16. At one point, she had to finish the dishes, and her Jehovah's Witness mother-in-law showed up, and I ended up having to hide in the shower. And it was the longest 30 minutes of my life. And I plan on telling that story eventually, but it does tie into this idea of the idea of how people feel about letting go in that sense, because we're talking about let me try not to get into any more of that, but I did feel like that's one of those funny points, is that you never know what side of the coin you're going to be on. Never let me show my bias though. There, Lalo. LJ,
Okay.
more flat earth moon landing host debates, please. Well, LJ, we have tons of them coming up. Just stay tuned. One of our old classics, Howard Stirrup, has gotten a hold of me, and we have a NASA hoax debate coming up. So if that's something that you're interested in, LJ, make sure that you hit the notification bar, because you will get a notification for that. And for the rest of you, same deal. Ride $5. Destiny seems low energy today. Is it because the women he sex trafficked were deported?
What?
That's true.
Wait. Who got deported though? Is that lore I don't know of?
Me, I got deported. I'm home again.
Oh, really?
Sorry, I'm sorry,
Well,
Destiny.
yeah.
I didn't want to leave Destiny's thropes there, but I'm home again. Everybody, keep those Q&As coming in. Try to keep them serious, because we can only answer so much here as far as that goes. If you're going to be serious, Grace Thorpe, aka Joan, and thank you, Grace, for sending me an email back and letting me know about Lalo. Lalo, thank you once again for being here last minute. Everybody who is in the super chat, or in the live chat, give a huge round of applause for Lalo for stepping in last minute to defend this point. We really appreciate you being here. We were scared this wasn't going to happen, so once again, hit the like button, and once again, our speakers are going to be linked in our description. So, Grace, thank you for your super chat, asks, Destiny, do human trafficking laws exist to protect women who freely consent to do cam work, or do they exist to protect girls and women who are forced by violent threats to perform sex acts?
Sex trafficking laws, violent prevention of sex acts sounds like a rape thing. Sex trafficking probably prevents people from recruiting women in order through means of deceit or coercion or violence, to prevent them from recruiting those types of women to do sex work.
Sorry, I read that wrong. I thought that might have been internet slang. Yeah, she said, do they exist to protect girls and women who are forced by violent threats to perform sex acts? But I think you answered that. So Lalo, over to you. Any thoughts on that?
On what Grace said?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I'm kind of curious. Okay, Steven, did you think my debate was like my reasoning was better, or the Grace cope? Like, what do you think was actually more, what would have actually been more difficult for you to tackle there? Because it's interesting.
I don't know. I feel like neither of you are very serious on this topic, so.
True. All right. So basically, in my opinion, from what Grace has said, I think that is somewhat valid, and I think she echoed a lot of what I said recently, which is that, you know what, these women should be held accountable for being whores, frankly. And yeah, they were lied to. And you know what, L Andrew for lying. That's L Riz actually. So yeah, I think we agree.
Any thoughts over there, Steven? Do you guys agree? Is that true?
Doing cam work in
No,
Romania is
no.
not illegal, so I don't know. I'm not here to play moral condemnation for any of these people. That's not what this conversation is about.
All right. Well, you heard it here, guys. Let's continue on with our super chats. Thank you, Grace, for that. And keep those super chats coming in because as soon as we're done, and we only have a few more left to go, we will close it out with some some closing statements from our speakers. No more super chats after that. So let's keep the super chats coming in until we get to our closing statements. Car Ramrod for for $5. Lalo has to be an incel, right? See, I was reading that the whole time, and I was like, I don't know if I want to ask that. I didn't know that was possible to go this hard on the victims.
My
don't
response?
know. I don't know if you want to respond to that. It seems
No, that's fair game. I like this.
Okay. It's
Not
up to you.
okay. Look, not an incel, but I understand what they're coming from. You know, any person that watches Destiny for as long as I have would come out that way. So I get it. I do talk very autistic, but you know what? It's more fun that way. They say, "Oh, you talk like Ben Shapiro." Well, I'm just trying to not talk all slow with pregnant pauses, like I'm Mr. Girl. Thank you. And in respect to this whole thing about, you said something about that I'm an incel. I guess I got rid of that accusation. But what was the second thing of this in the super chat?
Oh, just 1 second because my fancy fingers, if you haven't heard yes, I'm a metal god. I see you there in the super chat, Sabric Dabra. My super fingers managed to move me out of it. Just 1 second here. The question was, Lalo has to be an incel, right? I didn't know that was possible to go this hard on the victims.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I like that you said that because I want to be a lawyer. So if I'm like completely facetiously just attacking the character of the victim in exchange for helping out the defendant, that means I'm going to get paid well. So you know what? I did my job. So it's good. Victim blaming is good. This like whole like PC like white people culture of like don't look at any sort of blame on the women. No, I think they're actually accountable for them doing sins. And you know what? It's probably the man's fault more so than the women's, but it could still be a 60-40 and we could actually assess the smaller piece of the pie for what it is. And it's still pie, all right? It's still guilt. It is still sin.
Any thoughts over there, Steven?
Nope.
All right, let's carry on, everybody. Yeah, lots of super chats pouring in now, so let me scroll on up. Destiny, what is your favorite manga?
Don't have one.
He doesn't have a favorite manga. Where
I
have
don't
you
read
been?
comics. It's for fucking losers.
Oh no, don't look at my background. I was going to say, I'm choking on my own spit, everybody. This is not good. This has happened only once before. All right, let's carry on. Before I have another heart attack. Aiden. Well, Lalo is the worst debater on modern day debate. That's a feat. Well, in fair faith, Lalo came here 10 minutes before the debate was supposed to begin. So if you thought he was the worst, well, you know, I thought that Lalo was a fair chap for coming in here last minute. What do you guys think?
So for me personally, my level of research now that it's done, I can be honest. I saw one of the Willie Mack videos exposing Andrew Tate one time. I saw Sneeko try to cope, and even in person, he'll defend Andrew Tate. Like he actually believes that Andrew is innocent. Like in person, he'll be like, "Nah, he's a great guy." It's like, bro, really? so Sneeko was sweeping it up, right? But you know, over dinner, people are different. Look, the point is that with respect to this whole idea of Andrew, I only saw that one Willie Mack video, and I saw Destiny. I remember being in the library like 6 months ago, watching him like go over the reports. It's like, damn, seems like they're guilty. That was 6 months ago. So I did see one of those streams back in the day from Destiny, and I did see that one Willie Mack video, and I did see and hear Sneeko cope about it. But that's the amount of research I did. Plus, I Googled it for 5 minutes before I went on because I wanted to actually have a fighter's chance. And so I think, given the lack of preparedness I had, I held up really well.
All right.
Awesome.
Destiny, your assessment?
Any
All right,
thoughts
you did
over there?
Oh,
All right.
sweetheart, you could have killed me.
As I show
Nice.
off my nerd memorabilia, because my wife is a huge comic fan, so and you know I grew up on manga. That's good stuff. You know, Rasengan. All right, let's continue on. Austin Pickens, $9.99. Why does Lalo get mad at corruption in Romania when Tate went to Romania specifically to take part? in that corruption. It seems he was perfectly fine with it when he thought he could benefit.
True, and that's why I cast blame on everybody, including the women that were cam whoring for him too. That's immoral. And you know what, Tate? If you're going to Romania to avoid the law, that's kind of cool. Avoid taxes, cool. But then you're doing this like pornography thing. I disavow that. But at the same time, again, bigger picture, was he a benign thing for the world? Yes. Now I was too old to really idolize him, but I could see myself at like 14 thinking he's the hot shit. So you know what? For those kids, you know what? I'm not gonna crap on your idol. So that's my whole point. And with respect to him going to Romania, I think that's gay. And you know what? Would I go to Mexico to avoid certain laws? Sure, but I don't have to do that. So
Any thoughts over there, Steven?
Nope.
All right, let's carry on with our super chats. And no green bicycles. I will not stop interjecting when I think things have come to a close. All right, let's carry on. Mesh asks for $10. If there was a magical portal, say in the wall like Hogwarts, that took these girls to Romania rather than Tate paying for flights, and all else was equal, is it still sex trafficking?
There was a what?
Magic portal. Bringing them through. Women.
If there was a magic portal, I mean, if he still lied to them and everything, then yeah, but
That's a bit of a strange super chat. Any thoughts there, Lalo?
if you went to Hogwarts, yeah. So if you remember the first Harry Potter movie, it's Harry living like in his aunt's, like not even the basement, but like the room underneath the staircase. Now, if Andrew had the women over there cam whoring, I think it'd be even worse because at least he hooked him up with his mansion. So I think he actually get in more trouble, and justifiably so. Because why would you have a girl cam girling underneath the staircase? That'd be awful. And so with that being said, I think that if you were in Hogwarts, it'd be way worse for Andrew, and rightfully so. Because then again, another point I wanted to make was that I just think that with respect to how the jurisdictions work, that Andrew would have an easier time living and breathing in a jurisdiction such as Florida than he would in some place like, let's say, Romania.
No thoughts there, Steven?
nope.
All right, let's carry on. Skeptical Ninja for $10. How stupid do you have to be to trust the Thorpes to recommend a debater? This is clearly a troll. You should feel bad for falling and for trusting them. Well, yeah, we're happy that we got Lalo here. I read the super chat because guess what? Everybody here is bigger than you. All right, let's carry on.
No, I was going to respond to that.
You want to?
Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. Look, it was not a troll. Now, did I know that I was getting into like a very difficult position because I know like what the truth is? Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, you know what? I had to try it out. It's kind of like, it's like, if you're a good attorney in the future, I aspire to be that sort of guy who defends O.J. Simpson. Yeah, is the evidence really fucked up? Sure, but if I'm going to be Robert Kardashian, if I'm going to be Johnny Cochran of the future, circa 2060, I ought to be competent at defending Andrew Tate of all people and defending whatever hair follicles he has left until his last breath, because that is my goal in this debate. And it's not a troll. Like I was being mostly genuine with what I was saying. So yeah, I'm not a troll.
All right, and I do appreciate you, Lalo, answering a lot of these really kind of spicy super chats, everybody. Some of them are all right, but a couple of them are being a little
I like it because it shows hierarchy. It shows like, you know what, like I get to be debating destiny. That means that I ought to get put through shit. And as a guy, that's what you do. You get hazed until you're a senior. And then once I'm a junior in college, then you can shit on the people beneath you. I kind of like that.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Out of everybody here, I am the least cut tonight. Like our debaters are so well shaved tonight. I feel ashamed. I should have done better here to make sure I was well cut. Askers for $10. Does it feel good knowing you performed a homogol troll at a zero energy debate? Is that towards me?
Yeah, they're hating on you. They're A-logging you right now, big time.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I've been so tired. I've been getting ready for a show tomorrow, and I've been screaming metal. Is that who you were coming at that with? Because I feel like I'm the most tired here. Because I also came in last minute after finding out that we had a cancellation, and sent some messages messages and found Lalo. So yeah, I was planning on going to bed, and then I got sidetracked. You know how it goes, everybody. Thanks for being here, of course. Big Fang, Flying Wayne. I always have to say it that way. Is it Sigma, Alpha, or Beta to trick a woman?
Well, I mean, I would say it's probably pretty beta to lie and traffic people, but you know, that's just me, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a bell curve of beta or alpha, where on one hand, somebody might be too beta to even gaslight a girl because he's too scared to do it. But at the same time, a true alpha would just say, he would basically be attractive and smart enough to just say, you know what, come cam whore for me. And she would be like, okay, bald man, I'll do it. And then that would be the alpha thing. So it's kind of like the middle of the distribution of the bell curve, where on one hand, somebody's too much of a pussy to lie, whereas the other person is too much of a bitch to just be honest. So yeah.
All right. Any thoughts there, Steven? Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll move on from there, everybody. Well, do you agree, Stephen? I don't want to.
I agree 100 million%.
Thank you.
100 million%. Those are statistics in economics. That's fine. J.K. Forte, Lalo doesn't like it equals gay, and he can
True.
justify it.
Yeah. I think people, just because I use it as an insult doesn't mean I viscerally care if you're a homosexual, right? I mean, it is what it is. Do I viscerally care if Andrew does so and so and so and so? No, because it's not me. So it's like whatever, okay? And also, it's important that we kind of like have this culture of like talking in a way that is somewhat dismissive of people, not this idea of like, oh, I need to be on pins and needles. That's how white people talk. We need like certain things white people do it's great, most of it, but some of this like technicality bullshit, this whole suburban mom thing of like, you can't say that. Why not? As long as it's TOS, I'm cool with it. So whatever.
Yeah, that's why I say things weird. Any thoughts, Steven?
I totally agree.
Yes. Let's go.
Well, it looks like you're scoring a bunch of points here, Lalo. Or Steven,
Finally.
are you dripping in sarcasm over there? What's going on?
I agree. I think I am a little bit.
Yeah. A little bit. I don't know if I've seen such things before in my life. I've only been married for 7 years. I've never seen sarcasm before. Grace Thorpe. Oh, stop that, Steven. You're going to make... No, I'm kidding. You're going to make everybody do it. Yeah. What time is it for you, Steven?
It's already 10 o'clock p.m.
Oh.
He's old. Yeah.
Oh, sweetheart. It's 11 o'clock here. I'm in Nova Scotia, so...
Oh, Lord.
I'm always a little bit further out than most people.
You're way a boot there. Okay, crazy.
We a boot, everybody. So yeah, it's going to be a big deal for me to come out to Dallas, Texas. So I hope to see you there. Check out the tickets in the link in the description. Grace Thorpe asks for $10. If I tell a guy I'll marry him if he flies over to me, and I'm lying, pay for his ticket, then he flies over, I don't marry him and convince him to do cam work with me, is that sex trafficking?
Sounds like it would probably be, yeah. Yes.
Oof.
As long as you're making money off it, yeah.
Okay. I mean, this is just kind of like blatantly obvious that like if a guy goes and he simps and he says, oh, well, I'm going to do this with this girl, and then I immediately realize that she's not going to marry me, and then I still continue to cam myself out like a gay guy. Like, really? I mean, it's pretty obvious that at that point, you know what, you're just a sucker, and they're born every minute. So I guess there's plenty of cases of this. But yeah, no, I think it's a very different thing. I think Andrew Tate would be way more guilty than Grace in this case. If you get tricked by her, it's like,
James, if you want to drag, oh no, you're not James. You
I'm
said
Ryan.
his name. If you want to drag her in here for 2 minutes, if she instead of having to donate, if she wants to run down her dialogue tree real quick, we can do it.
You hear that, Grace? You want to jump on in? Steven's inviting you to come and elaborate. I give 10 minutes to Grace if she wanted to pop in here. She said ain't no way in the chat. Well, you know what? I'll send you the Zoom link, and if you want to pop in here, I'll give you 10 minutes because you were so charitable to find us, Lalo, and get back to me so fast. I wouldn't mind. So let's continue on. Askers for $5. You are not the middle guy. Here's $5.
Damn. Brutal.
oh, yeah, you're not the other guy, the subway guy. That's what they're saying.
The subway guy.
Subway. It's not Jared Fogle. You're not him. Great, you're innocent.
Now I got to copy our Zoom link here. Hold on. All right. Let's ask that next super chat. Dr. Akko, did you legit skip my super chat? Worst debate platform of all time. Let's scroll up. Did I miss a super chat? No. Doesn't look like it. Hey, Dr. Akko, do you want to maybe tag me in the live chat and ask your question? Because that would probably help a lot more than just kind of moaning about it.
Damn, savage.
I'm sorry. I'm Canadian. You know how everybody has this association of Canadians saying sorry all the time?
Sorry.
It's usually like it's usually a passive aggressive sorry, kind of like sorry you're so stupid. A. Why do you think we say A all the time? Just a question. I'm just asking. I didn't want to be that brutal. I'm just being me. I'm sorry. So let's move on to our last super chat. I sent you the link to our Zoom chat, Grace, if you wanted to pop in here and have some fun for 10 minutes, maybe stir the pot for a few, because we're going to close this out a little bit earlier than I usually do. Thunderstorm for $4.99. I hope Tate's victims can heal and move forward.
Wow.
Sure.
All right. I have gone through the super chat. Askers asks, wow, ow. We ow? For $5? Why did you do that, Askers? Was that a typo? What's going on here? Well, either way, I sent Grace the good old link here if she wanted to ask any questions, since, I said, you donated to the super chat twice, and you sent me Lalo tonight, and we're happy about
And that's the most important part, yeah. I want Grace on here. Apparently, she has this hey boner for Destiny. She needs to work this out, because I actually followed the sort of lore where she was a-logging Destiny about like LSD use, and I was like, bitch, who cares, right? So I'm being morally consistent. Like, okay, Andrew Tate, you're a scumbag. Who cares? Okay, so Hunter Biden did this thing. I don't care. Oh, LSD. Who cares, right? So playing it even.
Best.
Based. Well, as for our discussion, well, we wait for that possibility, and if we don't get to that possibility, well, then I'll just play some music and scream in your ear to close us out. Let's move into some closing statements as for the discussion we've had here, and as per usual fashion, we'll kick it over to Lalo to give first thoughts on the discussion.
So my general take was that, the way I envisioned this, because again, I had no notification. Oh, shit.
It happened. It's too late now. Everybody, Grace has arrived and has questions, and we're at the end of our debate. And thank you, Grace, for finding Lalo and messaging me back.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right. I said I'd give 10 minutes. Maybe we'll give it a little bit more. Your thoughts on this discussion, and let's get you in here as far as back and forth with Steven.
I think my good friend Steven is confusing two different things. Okay. I admit that fraud can be part of sex trafficking. Like, if you commit fraud in order to commit sex trafficking, that is part of the reason you can be charged with sex trafficking. But I don't think Steven understands what fraud is. An example of fraud would be like lying about your age to get a driver's license, right? So you're lying, you're manipulating the truth, you're covering something, you're covering a fact in order to get something. Okay, now you could say he committed fraud on these women by saying, I'll marry you if you come to Romania. Okay, maybe you could claim that, even though obviously they're just idiots for believing him, and nobody would believe that Andrew Tate would marry you anyways. But once they're in Romania, okay, it is not fraud for him to then say, I'm not marrying you. Clearly, he doesn't marry them. There's no wedding. And instead, he convinces them to do cam work with him as their manager. That is not fraud. And therefore, this whole claim that he's lying and that's why he should be charged with sex trafficking or human trafficking, that doesn't hold up at all.
Oh, I agree that wouldn't be fraud, but that's not what is being alleged. It's not being alleged that they came to Romania and then he said, you know what, I changed my mind. I don't think I want to get married. If you want to do the sex work instead, I'll manage you. If that was the case, then that wouldn't be trafficking.
Okay, so then
Instead, what he
what
did
is
was he
it?
continually misled them about whether or not he would be in a relationship with them. And while he was misleading them that they were more special to him than they actually were, or while he was misleading them that he did intend to finally settle down and marry them or have a family with them or be faithful to them, during that process, he was getting his other women to integrate them into his sex work business. So he was continually deceitful.
Okay, but so what? So lying to somebody isn't a crime. Fraud would say you get something from the other person. If other women that you know are convincing somebody to do camera work, you can say whatever the hell you want to them. That's not fraud. That's not committing fraud. That doesn't hold up. If a guy says
it is Romania. If you disagree, that's fine. But then your argument should be, I don't believe that Romania has established sex trafficking correctly. But if you lie about something in some case, it absolutely is fraud. If I sell you a car and I say I legally own this car and it's stolen, that lie can constitute fraud. If I tell you if you buy this operating system from me, you know it's going to help your computer and it's a virus, that is a lie and that is fraud. It depends on what the underlying crime is. So if I tell you that I'll marry you if you come here and we can be together forever and it'll be great, and then when you do that, I'm like, well, also do this sex traffic or like work on OnlyFans, give me some money, like I'll marry you eventually, but I have no intention of marrying you, and I'm talking to other people about how I have no intention of marrying you. That is also fraud, and because there's sexual exploitation involved.
that isn't fraud. Well, what is the sexual exploitation? That isn't fraud. That isn't fraud. If a guy says he'll marry me if I do something for him, that is not him committing fraud. That's me being an idiot. That's not illegal.
Those two things are not
mutually
illegal. It is illegal, and those two things.
If somebody tells me they'll give me something if I do this, and then they don't, that's not necessarily illegal. That's an incredibly
I didn't say it was necessarily
broad definition.
It is broad, but we're not using a broad definition of fraud. We're very specifically talking about sex trafficking, which very specifically says if you deceive somebody and then transport somebody somewhere to do sex work on your behalf, you've committed sex trafficking. Somebody can be stupid and fall for fraud at the same time. Those two things are not only not mutually exclusive, they literally have nothing to do with one another.
Yes, but fraud is an activity that relies on deception in order to achieve a gain. Okay, it's a knowing misrepresentation of the truth. I agree he lied to them, but how did his fraud induce these girls to act to their detriment and his gain? He said he'd marry them. They came over to Romania.
Because it sounds like, and one of the things he's bragged about frequently is that none of these girls, or only half of these girls, or maybe none, were even in the sex business before. So it sounds to me like the only way.
That's not relevant.
Hold on, you asked me a question of why he was being fraudulent. And the answer sounds like it's because these women weren't working in this industry and probably wouldn't have worked for him otherwise. The fraud part was a necessary part to get them to work for him as OnlyFans girls. That's why he was fraudulent.
Yes, but it's not, you don't understand. It may be, you may call it fraud for you to lie to somebody that if they come over to the country you're in, that you'll marry them.
Fraud, yes.
That's a very, very broad definition of fraud.
Hold on, wait, I don't know why you're saying broad. It's very clear. I tell somebody, I'm going to marry you.
Because you don't get anything out of that.
He does get something out of that.
No, not from them just coming over to Romania. He gets nothing out of that. Once they're in Romania, if they were actually, like, if they had a crumb of common sense, if he doesn't literally get married to them, which would involve a marriage ceremony, then they should leave, right? But instead, he doesn't get married to them. So clearly, they're not.
That's true. So then at that point, maybe it would be. I don't know if there's a crime. That's true. That's true. But I don't know if there. No. If there might be a crime for attempted sex trafficking, in which case that would be a different conversation if he hadn't. But the problem was once they got to Romania, he continued to deceive them and he continued to try to convince them that they were going to be married while getting them to do sex work. And the only reason they were agreeing to do that sex work is because they were in love and thought that they were helping build a future with their future husband.
Okay, so I have two things to say that. First of all, I do not think that you can put somebody in jail for manipulating somebody, okay? Manipulation, that happens. Okay, so if McDonald's promises me a burger that looks a certain way in an advertisement, and then it doesn't look that way when I go to get it, was fraud just committed upon me? Not only
is fraud committed, I'm almost positive that literally within the past month, isn't a fast food chain actually being sued for misleading advertisements? I believe it was Burger King is actually facing a false advertisement.
Newsflash, Stephen, every fast food chain has misleading advertisements, okay? It never looks like it does on the billboard,
that's fine.
Okay? I know you
and
don't
a number
of
them,
house,
depending
but if you
upon...
actually did, you would see that it never holds up to reality. That's the whole point of advertisement. Somebody advertises something, they're not all accused of fraud, okay? You have this ridiculously wide definition of fraud, and then you say,
sex trafficking. Take it up with the Romanian courts. Under your definition, what counts?
I'm saying the legal definition of fraud.
Hold on there, Grace.
Under your definition... Yeah, under your definition, what constitutes fraud?
Fraud is an activity that relies, it's not my definition, it's the legal definition. Fraud is an activity that relies on deception in order to achieve a gain.
Okay, but we've already met all of that in the Romanian case.
Yes, but it becomes a crime when there's a knowing misrepresentation of the truth or
Like a
concealment
relationship.
of a material fact
Like a
to induce
relationship.
another to act to his or her detriment. Okay.
Like doing OnlyFans, yes.
Okay, well, first of all, how is that acting to their detriment if they freely
Also,
consented to do that?
Well,
How is that
technically,
acting
no,
to
no,
their
no, hold on,
detriment?
hold on. It doesn't have to.
Weren't
No,
they
no, no,
getting
no, no,
paid
no,
for
no, no,
that?
no,
Just
no,
one
no,
second
no.
there.
It doesn't have to act to their detriment. It has to act to the benefit of the exploiter. You can exploit somebody and still have them make money. Like
No,
hold
that's
on.
One
Do you
second
think
there,
that?
Grace.
Do you think that prostitutes that work under pimps? Do you think they don't make any money being prostitutes?
no, but I don't think. Do you think pimps are sex traffickers?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
but hold on. But ignoring that, hold on. Ignoring that, do you think that prostitutes on streets? Do you think that they don't make any money? They do make money. Sometimes they make more money
I
than they
think they
could
make
with
money.
conventional work.
I don't
Okay.
think they're being sex trafficked. I do not. See,
We're not-
the
no,
point
no,
of
no,
sex
no, we're not
trafficking
asking
is
if they're being
that
sex trafficked.
somebody
Okay.
is forcing somebody else to do something. That is the
No,
point of sex
that's not.
trafficking.
No.
Yes,
Force.
it is.
No, that's fine, but this is Grace's individual definition. Force doesn't have to be the only way you can get somebody to do something. You could also do it by means of deceit.
Okay, but so what if a porn producer says to a girl, "Look, you're going to be famous and make a lot of money," right? And he gets her to do porn, and he films it, and he makes money off of her, and then she doesn't do that well, and she's depressed or whatever, and kills herself. Okay, she's an idiot. Is he committing fraud? Like, you can't just say
It depends on.
women don't have brains. You're a sexist, Destiny.
No,
That's the
no.
problem.
It depends
you
on.
are sexist. These women freely took plane tickets over to him. Once he said they.
Okay,
that he,
I'm gonna
once he
cut you off because
obviously
you're not.
One
letting me
second
talk,
there,
right?
Grace.
married them. He
So
didn't
Sorry,
we're not
Grace.
talking
them,
about.
Just-
and they
just-
did
we're not.
cam work.
Hold on,
Women
Grace.
are humans. They made the mistake.
If
Grace,
a porn producer, you would have to
where
prove.
you just
you would
came
have
in
to-
here. We'll have to be fair. So I'm going to put you on the mute, and let Steve respond.
Yeah, so the question is the state of the mind of the person making the live. A porn producer looks at a young girl and she's like, "Man, I think you make a lot of money doing porn. Let's go shoot scenes. Let's do it. Blah 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 blah." And she does, and she doesn't make that much money. It seems hard to prosecute him for a crime because for fraud to be there, he has to be intentionally misrepresenting that. Now,
Of course, a porn
let's say
director
that a
could
porn.
intentionally-
One
Let's say
second,
that
Grace.
let's say that a porn director sees a girl and he's like, "This girl's not gonna make any money. I'll tell her she'll be fucking rich or whatever." And let's say he's talking to his friends, like, "I know this chick's not gonna do shit, but I bet we can get like a $500 scene out of her. You know, who cares after that?"
Sure.
And let's say a producer's like, "Listen, if you do this, I bet you can sell like $50,000 deals. Like, let's do this. Let's shoot some scenes or whatever." And they do some work, and then afterwards, she's like, "I'm not getting any work. What's going on?" And let's say she files a suit against him or discovers text message where he's saying like, "I'm gonna get this chick to do this shit, and I don't think she's gonna get shit after, but I'll tell her she can shoot $50,000 scenes." Seems to me that would be fraud. You're showing a state of mind where the guy is intentionally deceiving the woman in order to get her to, do something. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. That would show that that woman is stupid. It's not fraud.
Why do
Fraud
you
is
keep
like,
saying stupid has nothing to do with fraud? Do you understand that?
because the whole reason I don't think
Can
he
you
will
acknowledge
actually
that?
be charged with this.
Can
I
you
don't think he'll be
acknowledge that?
charged with
Hold
this
on
because
there, Grace.
fraud is
Can you
actually
acknowledge
intended.
that?
Grace, Steven's asking you a question. Right
Can you
here.
acknowledge that being stupid has nothing to do with fraud? You know, old people are stupid when it comes to computers, but you can still defraud them when it comes to putting viruses on their machines.
I'm making a point that somebody who
Can you
falls for
acknowledge that?
manipulation is different than somebody who is willfully deceived in a way where they say, like, if you
Willfully
send me this money,
deceived? What does
Yes,
that mean?
willfully
What does
deceived.
willfully deceived mean?
that Andrew will like I mean willingly, like Andrew knew that he was deceiving them. Andrew Tate knew that that's what I
Okay.
mean.
Well, you know what? If you really want to do this argument, you can. That's fine. But another aspect of the Romanian criminal code is that testimony from a victim actually
So
doesn't
you admit
matter.
that you
So
lost.
even if
So you admit that you lost and you're moving on.
not
to the
only
next
did
point. Okay, go ahead.
not only
Hold on,
did I
Grace.
not lose, there is an explicit carve out in the Romanian criminal code that says that testimony from victims can't save you. Even if the victim says, "Oh, no, in the end I think everything worked perfectly fine," if they can prove that you were being deceitful in the beginning part of your trafficking when you originally got them down, then that's all they really need to prove. Even if the victim ends up becoming
Okay,
a billionaire.
One second.
I understand what you're saying, but there is no crime in saying to a girl, "I'll marry you if you come over to Romania," and then you don't marry them once they come to Romania. That's the end of that relationship. If after that you say, "Hey, do you want to do cam work for me and I'll be your manager and you'll get this much money," that has nothing to do with the previous thing. It has nothing to do with it. You keep saying he transported girls.
I agree with you. that that wouldn't be a crime, but that's not what happened. He continued to misrepresent his relationship with these girls in order to get them to do cam work. He continued to lie to them. If they moved to Romania, like you said, it absolutely, it's not only does it matter, it's probably the single most important factor of the case. If they move down there and then afterwards they're like, you know what, I'm not really feeling this. I don't think I really like you that much, but hey, do you want to do webcam work or whatever? And they were like, yeah, sure. That's not sex trafficking at all. That's just them, the status of their relationship changing, them choosing to do sex work.
Look, fraud is just one point. It says sex trafficking is anyone who recruits, transports, transfers, harbors, or receives a person by means of threat or use of force or other forms of coercion. We agree that's not involved. Of abduction.
No. Why did you only read part of that, or other forms of coercion? Deceit can be one of those other forms.
I'm not reading. It says of fraud. That's the last one that I'm going to read.
Oh, okay.
The abuse of power by taking advantage.
Yes.
Of that person's inability to defend him or herself, that's not involved, or giving, offering, or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over the other person, that's not involved. For the purpose of exploitation, it's tricky whether this was even exploitation, because then you'd have to say
Exploitation just means making money off of in this sense. In the legal definition, that's all that means. So if he was making money off of her doing sex work, that meets the qualification of exploitation in this sense. It's not like, are you exploiting?
How would a porn producer not be accused of sex trafficking, human trafficking?
If a porn producer is lying or being deceitful when approaching the girl, he would be, especially if he's transferred to another country.
If you're exploiting someone sexually, right? You're saying that qualifies you for
that's the third part. There are three parts. There's the act, there's the means, and then there's the exploitation. That's all three of those need to be met.
Okay, so you're saying it has to hit all three of those?
Yes.
Okay, so the act is what? The girl performing sex work?
No, the act is transferring or harboring or receiving a person, a victim. So come to my country, let me transport you, let me receive this person being delivered by another person. That's the act.
Yeah, but it says recruits, transports, transfers, harbors, or receives a person. You think that's intended to mean if somebody offers you a plane ticket and you freely consent to take that money and take a plane to Romania? You think that's what this law is? And I do not think this would hold up in court at all.
No. First of all, that's fine if you don't think that. The Romanian court system disagrees with you. So I don't know why you keep saying, I don't think. Your opinion is not only irrelevant here.
Has he actually been charged with this? Has he been incriminated?
An indictment means that there is a formal charge. That's what an indictment is. So yes, there is a 360-page indictment detailing at least 6 charges for Andrew Tate. So not only has he been charged.
I don't know literally
Last
what's
question
happening. I'm
there,
just
Grace,
looking at the legal thing. Has
that's
he
fine.
Actually,
I'm just saying that
been charged with this? He's been found guilty.
No, he hasn't been found guilty. We're at the indicting stage.
So
but for an indictment to be filled out,
hold on,
for an indictment, get out of debate mode. Okay, you can do this. You keep saying that, like, I don't think this would ever hold up in court. That's fine, but multiple judges, I believe it's a 3-judge panel, reviews these indictments before they go out, and they've been stalled for 6 months. So more than 3 judges have had their eyes on it, and they seem to disagree with you. So I don't know why you keep offering your personal opinion like it matters. Number one.
Well, we're both offering a personal opinion.
No, I'm not offering a personal opinion. I'm just giving the opinion of the judges. Okay, that's why I'm quoting the indictment.
But he hasn't been found guilty, so there is
I didn't say he's been found guilty. I'm not saying he is guilty. I'm saying that if everything in the indictments are true, he's guilty. That's the point of an indictment, is to prove what's in the indictments in court.
Well, I thought we were just saying that comparing what he's done to the law.
Yeah, what he's done,
hold up in court? According to what, been found guilty yet.
According to what he's done in the indictments, he is a sex trafficker. Now it's going to be up to the Romanian court to prove to a panel of judges that what's happened in the indictment is indeed true.
All right. Well, I'm going to eject here, fellas. I do appreciate you stepping in here, Grace, to clarify some of your questions and also your reasons for being, so passionate to get me back to Lalo here and have somebody to defend this point.
I love you, Ryan.
Well, thank you so much. We love you too on Modern Day Debate here, and we will.
Thank you, Daddy Steven. Thank you very much. I'm right. You're wrong. Bye.
All right. Thanks for being here, Grace. All right. It's not unusual modern day debate format that we have 2 people in our chat here, and I'm going to get our screens relocated here. But where Grace had found Lalo and, had a lot of passion about the subject, I saw her in the live chat. I thought that would be a lot of fun since, Stephen, that's not the first time you met Grace, is it?
No, we've talked about her and fucking her dad and everything quite a few times in the past. So.
Stephen, I guess I didn't say behave yourself. Let's carry on. Fockwood for $20, and no question there. Ryan Rockwell, $5. Very kind of Grace to come in and volunteer to say even more moronic things to make Lalo's performance seem competent in comparison. So sorry, Grace. Ryan, another Ryan, fellow Ryan, is not too impressed with you. That happens. 561 Lifestyle for $10. What's Destiny doing here? I thought Nick retired him like when Tim Pool retired Hunter Avlon.
Nice.
About the Joe Biden quid pro quo involving Burisma and a certain Ukraine prosecutor investigating Hunter Biden.
Based. I agree.
All right, we can continue on from there. Fockwood, $10. The American education system is failing, or maybe TikTok is just rotting brains. I would love to get on this panel. At least Lalo has chatted looks. Zero preparedness is not a word, just an example.
Wait, who was the one that commented that?
I was Fockwood.
Thank you, Fockwood. Hopefully you're a woman. What the fuck? Anyway, I appreciate that. True.
Well, thanks, Fockwood. Fockwood coming in again. Is this Lord Fockwad? What is this? Are you trying to bring us right back to Shrek childhood here? $20. This woman is just wet by Andrew. This is delusional. Women in poor countries don't have the financial need to fly back. And it's also strange why he chose poor women specifically. There is clear intention of exploitation.
If you go for poor chicks only, yeah, that seems to be something that is kind of illustrative of like trying to get the pick of the litter in a way that like, okay, she's hot, but she can't escape from me. She has nothing better, no better prospects but to be a cam girl, which is to say maybe she could have actually gone back to, let's say, England to her family if you're the average Tate prisoner sex slave. But maybe she said, you know what? I have nothing over there. I could just be working at McDonald's in England, so I'll just instead cam whore for Andrew. And that's a conscious decision a lot of them, I presume, made, which I guess makes sense because, like, if it were a bunch of rich girls and they didn't like what Andrew was doing, they would have left. So I assume if any of them did leave, they were probably better off financially. And there is a Drake lyric, actually, that applies called from 2016. And he says, "Don't make me give you back to the hood," which is to insinuate, like, I'm a rich guy, you're a poor girl, suck my dick, or I'll throw you away back. So, yeah, it does seem like a power leverage move to only get hot chicks that are poor so that they can't leave.
Any thoughts over there, Steven?
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
All right. All right, excellent. And thank you so much, Stephen, for entertaining the extra there. Where I let Grace in here to ask you a couple questions there. I super appreciate you entertaining that. So a super round of applause there for Destiny in the live chat.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and a virtual applause. Thank you, Stephen, for entertaining that fun. Let's carry on. Max McDonald's. If found guilty, what sentence would you give Tate? Would it be a multi-year sentence, or would probation or community service suffice?
If guilty, the problem is I think it would depend on like the level of exploitation involved. So like, let's say for instance, he lied to like two girls, brought them down, you know, he stole a little bit of money from them or whatever. I don't know, probably a year or two or something, maybe even deferred. I don't know, it depends. But like, let's say he's like, he did this to like 50 women and he's stealing a fuck ton of money from them. He's becoming like a multimillionaire. He's like being like coercive as fuck to all of these girls. They're like all getting like kind of like scammed on their tax and everything. I think at that point it's probably a much more serious thing. He should probably be in jail for quite a bit longer because this guy's literally made tens of millions of dollars off of the exploitation of women. It's probably not good at that point.
Wow.
Any thoughts over there, Lalo?
Yeah, you know what? If he did get several dozens, if not hundreds of girls to come over there to cam girl for him, I disavow that. And I think it's cringe. And moreover, I think that he should probably, I don't think jail is the right solution. If you're rich, you should just pay back the money like threefold. Like, you know what? If you made $10 million off of these whores, then how about you pay back 30 million, Andrew? and then just call it a day. And moreover, he should be on some sort of like prohibition of any sort of pornography ever. Like you should not be able to cam girl like that. First of all, that shouldn't be legal. But second of all, like specifically him, like, hey, how about we cut that out and you keep it pretty clean and narrow because he can grift some other way, right? So yeah, you should definitely. I'm not very much a proponent of jail. If assuming he didn't actually abuse these women, like hit them or anything, he just made them cam girl. Just say, you know what, pay back the money that you exploited them out of threefold, like it says in the Bible, and just call it a day.
A1. All right. Let's move on from there, everybody. I think we've got both sides of those thoughts there. Julia Hart for $2 says, will Destiny escape Tate's being not guilty if verdict?
Will Destiny escape Tate's not being guilty verdict?
Escape.
I mean, if he's not guilty, he's not. They don't find him guilty. I've always said that he should deserve to have his day in court.
Except.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's whatever the
I can't
accept
read
whatever the
online,
courts.
Lingo.
Sure.
I'm too ADHD for that. Sorry. So yeah, will Destiny accept Tate's being not guilty if verdict?
Yeah, if he's not guilty, he's not guilty.
Yeah. I think we got that. But yeah, my reading it wrong. I was like, oh, ADHD, what's wrong with you, Ryan? All right, Ryan Rockwell. Very kind of Grace to come in and volunteer to say, yeah, you already said that. Well, yeah, well, we do appreciate Grace popping in right quick. And also Grace for getting back to me about Lalo. And Lalo, thanks for being here. It's been a real pleasure being able to get this debate out there. I think our fans are very happy that we were able to have a discussion tonight. So, Fuckwood, this woman is just wet by Andrew. This is delusional. Women in poor countries don't have the financial needs to fly back. And also, didn't we already read this one?
Did we?
I feel like we already read this one.
Maybe.
Yeah, it feels like either that's the same question. Kathy, yeah, I was just say this feels very similar to another one. And Max McDonald, Kathy Tudor, sorry, $5. Grace, if you get in an Uber, this was for Grace, but I'll kick it over to you, Lalo. If you get in an Uber and the driver takes you to compound and puts you to work, does your willingness to get in the car make it legal?
No.
Oh, sorry, he's asking him.
Yeah. I agree with the premise that, you know what, it is bad to lie, okay?
All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Ben Cat's super chat just came in and it popped the whole thing up like that and threw me right off. All right, so Fuckwid, Lord Fuckwid asks again, Lalo, I would cry if you were my lawyer. You can't convince a judge for... not very kind. Let alone form a sentence that is concise and makes sense. This word limit is making it hard for me to make good chats. Plus my card keeps declining. I'm sorry, Fuckwood. This is all just ad hominem. Just thanks for your substantive addition to our conversation tonight. Ben Cat, his text claims he's drained a chick's money before getting her to cam. By the way, Grace, I would say a kid willfully approached a van for candy. My goodness.
Wow.
I don't know what to say, fellas. Ben Cat, what were you hoping to start with that? Anglo Lover, $10. Destiny, how many spankings? Oh my God. The things you guys make me say. Why are you paying money for this? $10 for this. How many spankings would you recommend to Tate if he was found guilty? Would you say 10 spankings?
69 spankings, you know?
My jeez. What is going on with our live chat? Thanks, Anglo Lover. You're trying to break me or something. I've done so well, even though I'm so exhausted after all this jamming that I did today and now coming in last minute. Pie Week. Tell Lalo his mic shouldn't be pointed at him. He should be speaking into the front of it, assuming it's a blue Yeti.
True.
So like this. Hey guys, how's it going? Now it sounds different because I have the pattern as the middle one. So who knows, frankly. So let's stop Mike watching, okay? Who cares? I sound fine.
I heard you all night. Did you hear him, Steven?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
his
looks-
mic's set up incorrectly, but it's okay. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but
Oh,
He's
Lord.
not that autistic.
How's my
Yeah, we love
microphone?
Destiny.
I'm not running all my usual stuff. Is it okay?
It's cute.
what is that, an SM58 or?
This one is what is this? This is a Beta 87A. This is the one I usually use when I go out playing music.
Oh, I have no idea then.
Yeah, it's a vocalist's mic, so I usually get away with a lot of high pitched screaming through this, but I have to have all my proper preamp gear. So that's the end of our super chats, everybody. What we're going to do is we're going to move it into a 1 minute closing statement per each side. And as we were trying to go into our 1 minute closings, and then Grace gracefully stepped in to add to our conversation. Thank you so much, Grace. Let's kick it over to Lalo to give us 1 minute.
Okay, so it's okay. 1 minute on the Andrew Tate thing, and then I can do the whole like, oh, this is me, right?
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, yeah, yeah. Let us know where we can find you, of course.
Okay, so personally, I would say, and I'll send you my channel so you can link it, Ryan. So here it is. So I'm gonna be kind of crouching over just to make it more entertaining. Look, personally, I think that Andrew Tate is by the letter of the law guilty. Yeah, like in a white man society. And again, I'm like Mexican. I don't really care about the law as much, but it's like half of my relatives came here hopping over a fence. Listen, the point is that Andrew Tate is evidently kind of guilty by Destiny's estimation. He made it great. Basically, he really spelled it out how exactly he, as a technicality, kind of fulfilled all the check marks. I personally don't even care, though. Plus, I actually outlined a sentencing outline in my own morality where, he would actually have to pay a big debt towards the women in restitution about the cam whoring and whatever else. And he didn't do that for the longest time. So I think I won on that thing. Moreover, again, I appreciate Destiny for talking to me. It's pretty surreal, so I appreciate it. The other thing I wanted to say is that with Andrew, is he guilty? Yeah, but is it that big of a deal? And also, let's look at the people that do hate him. And personally, mostly everybody that hates him are the wrong sort of people, okay? So that is my little statement.
All right.
You really need to stand up for that.
Before we give
No, I was, yeah, don't worry.
That's all right. Before we give Steven his closing statement, we have one last question from Bond Servant for $2. Can Destiny, and we'll just keep this to Destiny, can Destiny tell us what NFT is?
Isn't that like a negligible fun time or something? I think it's like when you go out and you drink and you don't get too drunk, but you do get drunk enough that people remember. But it's like you don't cause like a ton of damage.
Don't tell people about that time we linked up. We promised we keep that a secret. No, I'm kidding, everybody. That's fine. Let's close it out here and give Steven his 1 minute closing thoughts on the overall discussion. Jokes aside.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's a sex trafficker. I feel like he meets all the laws standards for being a sex trafficker. And I think that when most people want to argue against him being a trafficker, I think that what people are really arguing is they don't agree with what sex trafficking is under the way that Romania defines it as such.